Produced by Metra Christofferson. The Cook's Decameron. A study in taste. Containing over 200 recipes for Italian dishes. By Mrs. W. G. Waters. Show me a pleasure like dinner, which comes every day and lasts an hour. Talleyrand circa 1901. 2. A.V. In memory of certain Ausonian feasts. Preface. Montaigne, in one of his essays, mentions the high excellence Italian cookery had attained in his day. I have entered into this discourse upon the occasion of an Italian I lately received into my service, and who was clerk of the kitchen to the late Cardinal Caraffa till his death. I put this fellow upon an account of his office, where he fell to discourse of this palate science, with such a settled countenance and magisterial gravity, as if he had been handling some profound point of divinity. He made a learned distinction of the several sorts of appetites, of that of a man before he begins to eat, and of those after the second and third service. The means simply to satisfy the first, and then to raise and acute the other too. The ordering of the sauces, first in general, and then proceeded to the qualities of the ingredients and their effects. The differences of salads, according to their seasons, which ought to be served up hot, and which cold. The manner of their garnishment and decoration, to render them yet more acceptable to the eye, after which he entered upon the order of the whole service, full of weighty and important considerations. It is consistent with Montaigne's large-minded habit thus to applaud the gifts of this master of his art, who happened not to be a Frenchman. It is a canon of belief with the modern Englishman that the French alone can achieve excellence in the art of cookery. And when once a notion of this sort shall have found a lodgment in an Englishman's brain, the task of removing it will be a hard one. Not for a moment is it suggested that Englishmen or anyone else should cease to recognize the sovereign merits of French cookery. All that is entreated is toleration, and perchance approval, of cookery of other schools. But the favorable consideration of any plea of this sort is hindered by the fact that the vast majority of Englishmen, when they go abroad, find no other school of cookery, by the testing of which they may form a comparison. This universal prevalence of French cookery may be held to be a proof of its supreme excellence that it is first, and the rest nowhere. But the victory is not so complete as it seems, and the facts would bring grief and humiliation rather than patriotic pride to the heart of a Frenchman like Brillat-Savarin. For the cookery we meet in the hotels of the great European cities, though it may be based on French traditions, is not the genuine thing, but a bastard, cosmopolitan growth, the same everywhere, and generally vapid and uninteresting. French cookery of the grand school suffers by being associated with such commonplace achievements. It is noted in the following pages how rarely English people on their travels penetrate where true Italian cookery may be tasted. Wherefore it has seemed worth while to place within the reach of English housewives some Italian recipes, which are especially fitted for the presentation of English fare to English palates under a different and not unappetizing guise. Most of them will be found simple and inexpensive, and special care has been taken to include those recipes which enable the less esteemed portions of meat and the cheaper vegetables and fish to be treated more elaborately than they have hitherto been treated by English cooks. The author wishes to tender her acknowledgments to her husband for certain suggestions and emendations made in the revision of the introduction, and for his courage in dining, greatly daring, off many of the dishes. He still lives and thrives. Also to Mrs. Mitchell, her cook, for the interest and enthusiasm she has shown in the work, for her valuable advice, and for the care taken in testing the recipes. Contents. Prologue. Part 1. The first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, the sixth day, the seventh day, the eighth day, the ninth day, the 10th day. Part 2. Recipes. Sauces. No espagnole or brown sauce, veloute sauce, bechamel sauce, mirepoix sauce for masking, Genoese sauce, Italian sauce, ham sauce, salsa di prosciutto, tarragon sauce, tomato sauce piquante, mushroom sauce, Neapolitan anchovy sauce, Roman sauce, salsa agrodolce, Roman sauce another way, supreme sauce, pasta marinade for masking Italian fries, white Villeroy. Soups, clear soup, zuppa primaveral spring soup, soup alla Lombarda, Tuscan soup, Venetian soup, Roman soup, soup alla nazionale, soup alla modenese, crotopo soup, soup all'imperatrice, Neapolitan soup, soup with risotto, soup alla Canavese, soup alla Maria Elia, zuppa d'herbe lettuce soup, zuppa regina di riso queen soup. Meinster, a condiment for seasoning Meinster and C. Meinstra alla casalinga, Meinstra of rice and turnips, Meinstra alla capucina, Meinstra of semolina, minestrone alla Milanese, Meinstra of rice and cabbage, Meinstra of rice and celery, anguilla alla Milanese eels, filetti di pes alla Villeroy fillets of fish, Estacci all'italiana lobster, bacala alla giardiniera cod, trigli alla marinara mullet, mullet alla tolosa, mullet alla tristina. Whiting alla Genovese, merluzzo and bianco cod, merluzzo and salamoia cod, bacala and estufado haddock, naselli con piselli whiting, ostrich alla Livornese oysters, ostrich alla Napolitana oysters, ostrich alla Veneziana oysters, pescae diversi alla casalinga fish, pes alla Genovese sole or turbot, sagliol and Zimino sole, sagliol al tegame sole, sagliol alla Livornese sole, sagliol alla Veneziana sole, sagliol alla Parmigiana sole. Salmon alla Genovese salmon, salmon alla Perigo salmon, salmon alla Giardiniera salmon, salmon alla Farnese salmon, salmon alla Santa Fiorentina salmon, salmon alla Francesca salmon, fillets of salmon in papilliot. Beef, mutton, veal, lamb and sea manzo alla Sardisana fillet of beef, stufato alla Fiorentina stewed beef, cassia di manzo al forno rump steak, palpatine alla salsa picante beef olives, stufato alla Milanese stewed beef, manzo marinato arrosto marinated beef, manzo con sugo di barbabietole fillet of beef, manzo and insalata marinated beef, falto di bue con pistacchi fillets of beef with pistachios, scallopini di riso beef with risotto. Tenerumi alla Piemontese tendons of veal, braciole di vitalo veal cutlets, costolette alla Monza veal cutlets, vitalo alla Pellegrina breast of veal, frittera piccata al Marsala fillet of veal, palpatine d'Estes veal olives, cost di vitalo imboraxiate ribs of veal, costolette di Montone alla Nizzarda mutton cutlets, petto di castrato all'italiana breast of mutton, petto di castrato alla salsa picante breast of mutton. Tenerumi di agnello alla Villeroy tendons of lamb, tenerumi di agnello alla Veneziana tendons of lamb, costolto d'agnello alla Costanza lamb cutlets. Tongue, sweetbread, calf's head, liver, sucking pig, and C. timballo alla Romana, timballo alla Lombarda. Lingua alla Visconti tongue. Lingua di manzo al citriuoli tongue with cucumber. Ling di castrato alla cuciniera sheep's tongues. Ling di vitalo l'italiana calves' tongues. Porcelletto alla Cordino sucking pig. Porcelletto de latte and galantina sucking pig. Atleti alla sarda. Atleti alla Genovese. Testa di vitalo alla Sorrentina calf's head. Testa di vitalo con salsa napolitana calf's head, testa di vitalo alla Pompadour calf's head, testa di vitalo alla Sanseverino calf's head, testa di vitalo in frittata calf's head, zampetti calf's feet, bedini marinati, enamel alla Parmigiana sweetbread, enamel in Cartoxio sweetbread, enamel all'italiana sweetbread, enamel lardolate sweetbread, frittera di botany e di enamel sweetbreads and mushrooms, cervello in filicerbe calf's brains. Cervello alla Milanese, calf's brains, cervello alla Villeroy calf's brains, frittata of cervello calf's brains, cervello alla frittata montano calf's brains, marinata di cervello alla Villeroy calf's brains, minuta alla Milanese lamb sweetbread, enamel al sapper di targon lamb's fry, fritto misto alla Villeroy, fritto misto alla Piemontese, minuta di fegatini ragu of fowl's livers, minuta alla Visconti chicken's livers, croutons alla Principessa, croutons alla Romana. Fowl, duck, game, hare, rabbit, and C. soffiato di capon fowl souffle, pollo alla Fiorentina chicken, pollo all'oliva chicken, pollo alla Villarexia chicken, pollo alla Cacciatora chicken, pilastro alla Lornese fowl, pilastro in fricassee al burro fowl, pilastro in estufa di pomodoro braised fowl, capon con riso capon with rice, dindo arrosto alla Milanese roast turkey, tacinato all'istriona turkey poult, fagiano alla Napolitana pheasant. Fagiano alla Perigo, pheasant, Anitra selvatica, wild duck, Perniciati alla Gastalda partridges, Pixioni alla Diplomatica snipe, Pixioni alla minute pigeons, Pixioni in ripieno stuffed pigeons, Leper in estufato stewed hare, Leper agrodolce hare, Coniglio alla Provenzale rabbit, Coniglio erstito alla Cordino roast rabbit, Coniglio in salsa picante rabbit. Vegetables: asparagi alla salsa suprema asparagus, cavalli di Bruxelles alla saviata Brussels sprouts, barbabietola alla parmigiana beetroot, fave alla saviata beans, vers alla cappuccina cabbage, cavalli fiori alla lyonnaise cauliflower, cavalli fiori fritti cauliflower, cauliflower alla parmigiana, cavalli fiori ripieni, sedani alla l'Armigiana celery, sedani fritti all'italiana celery, cetrioli alla parmigiana cucumber, cetrioli alla Borghese cucumber, carrot al sughillo carrots, carrot e piselli alla panna carrots and peas, vers alla surdicina cabbage, lattuga al sugo lettuce, lattuga farcite alla genovese lettuce, fungi capelle in farcite stuffed mushrooms, verger misti macedoine of vegetables, patate alla crema potatoes in cream, cesteline clay patate alla giardiniera potatoes, patate al pomodoro potatoes with tomato sauce, spinaci alla Milanese spinach, insalata di patate potato salad, insalata alla Navarino salad, insalata di pomodoro tomato salad, tartufi alla dino truffles, macaroni, rice, polenta, all other Italian pastes, macaroni with tomatoes, macaroni alla casalinga, macaroni al sughillo, macaroni alla Livornese, tagliarelle and lobster, polenta, polenta pasticciata, batafali, risotto all'italiana, risotto alla Genexese, risotto alla spagnuola, risotto alla cappuccina, risotto alla perugina, ravioli, ravioli alla fiorentina, noce alla romana, noce alla lombarda, frittata di riso, savory rice pancake, omelets and other egg dishes, uova ai tartufi, eggs with truffles, uova al pomodoro, eggs and tomatoes, uova ripian canapes of egg, uova alla fiorentina eggs, uova in Philly egg canapes, frittata di fungi mushroom omelet, frittata in pomodoro tomato omelet, frittata con asparagi asparagus omelet, frittata in herb omelet with herbs, frittata montata omelet souffle, frittata di prosciutto ham omelet. Sweets and cakes: budino off semolina, crema rapresa coffee cream, crema montata alla fragole strawberry cream, croccante di mandorle cream nougat, crema tartara alla caramella caramel cream, cremona cake, cake alla tollentina, riso all'imperatrice, amaretti leggere almond cakes, cakes alla Livornese, Genoese pastry, zabajone, iced zabajone, panforte di Siena, Sienese hardbake. New Century sauce, fish sauce, sauce piquante for meat, fowl, game, rabbit, and sea, sauce for venison, hare, and sea, tomato sauce piquante, sauce for roast pork, ham, and sea, for masking cutlets and sea. Part 1, The Cook's Decameron. Prologue. The Marchesa di Sant'Andrea finished her early morning cup of tea, and then took up the batch of correspondence which her maid had placed on the tray. The world had a way of treating her in kindly fashion, and hostile or troublesome letters rarely veiled their ugly faces under the envelopes addressed to her. Wherefore the perfection of that pleasant half-hour lying between the last sip of tea and the first step to meet the new day was seldom marred by the perusal of her morning budget. The apartment which she graced with her seemly presence was a choice one in the Mayfair Hotel, one which she had occupied for the past 4 or 5 years during her spring visit to London. A visit undertaken to keep alive a number of pleasant English friendships which had begun in Rome or Malta. London had for her the peculiar attraction it has for so many Italians, and the weeks she spent upon its stones were commonly the happiest of the year. The review she took of her letters before breaking the seals first puzzled her, and then roused certain misgivings in her heart. She recognized the handwriting of each of the 9 addresses, and at the same time recalled the fact that she was engaged to dine with every one of the correspondents of this particular morning. Why should they all be writing to her? She had uneasy forebodings of postponement, and she hated to have her engagements disturbed. But it was useless to prolong suspense, so she began by opening the envelope addressed in the familiar handwriting of Sir John Oglethorpe, and this was what Sir John had to say. My dear Marchesa, words, whether written or spoken, are powerless to express my present state of mind. In the first place, our dinner on Thursday is impossible, and in the second, I have lost Narcissus and forever. You commented favorably upon that supreme of lobster, and the risque de veau à la Renaissance we tasted last week, but never again will you meet the handiwork of Narcissus. He came to me with admirable testimonials as to his artistic excellence. With regard to his moral past I was, I fear, culpably negligent, for I now learn that all the time he presided over my stupends, he was wanted by the French police on a charge of murdering his wife. A young lady seems to have helped him, so I fear Narcissus has broken more than one of the commandments in this final escapade. The truly great have ever been subject to these momentary aberrations, and Narcissus being now in the hands of justice so called our dinner must needs stand over, though not, I hope, for long. Meantime, the only consolation I can perceive is the chance of a cup of tea with you this afternoon. J.O. Sir John Oglethorpe had been her husband's oldest and best friend. He and the Marchesa had first met in Sardinia, where they had both of them gone in pursuit of woodcock, and since the Marchesa had been a widow and Sir John had met either in Rome or in London every year. The dinner so tragically mank had been arranged to assemble a number of Anglo-Italian friends, and, as Sir John was as perfect as a host as Narcissus was as a cook, the disappointment was a heavy one. She threw aside the letter with a gesture of vexation and opened the next. "Sweetest Marchesa," it began, "how can I tell you my grief at having to postpone our dinner for Friday? My wretched cook, I gave her £75 a year, whom I have long suspected of intemperate habits, was hopelessly inebriated last night, and had to be conveyed out of the house by my husband and a dear, devoted friend who happened to be dining with us, and deposited in a four-wheeler. May I look in tomorrow afternoon and pour out my grief to you? Yours cordially, Pamela St. Aubin Fothergill." When the Marchesa had opened 4 more letters, one from Lady Considine, one from Mrs. Sinclair, one from Miss Macdonald, and one from Mrs. Wilding, and found that all these ladies were obliged to postpone their dinners on account of the misdeeds of their cooks, she felt that the laws of average were all adrift. Surely the 3 remaining letters must contain news of a character to counterbalance what had already been revealed. But the event showed that, on this particular morning, fortune was in a mood to strike hard. Colonel Trestrail, who gave in his chambers carefully devised banquets, compounded by a Bengali who was undoubtedly something of a genius, wrote to say that this personage had left at a day's notice, in order to embrace Christianity and marry a lady's maid who had just come into a legacy of £1,000 under the will of her late mistress. Another correspondent, Mrs. Gradinger, wrote that her German cook had announced that the dignity of womanhood was, in her opinion, slighted by the obligation to prepare food for others in exchange for mere pecuniary compensation. Only on condition of the grant of perfect social equality would she consent to stay, and Mrs. Gradinger, though she held advanced opinions, was hardly advanced far enough to accept this suggestion. Last of all, Mr. Sebastian van der Roat was desolate to announce that his cook, a Japanese, whose dishes were, in his employer's estimation, absolute inspirations, had decamped and taken with him everything of value he could lay hold of. And more than desolate, that he was forced to postpone the pleasure of welcoming the Marchesa di Sant'Andrea at his table. When she had finished reading this last note, the Marchesa gathered the whole mass of her morning's correspondence together, and uttering a few Italian words which need not be translated, rolled it into a ball and hurled the same to the farthest corner of the room. "How is it," she ejaculated, "that these English, who dominate the world abroad, cannot get their food properly cooked at home? I suppose it is because they, in their lofty way, look upon cookery as a non-essential, and consequently fall victims to gout and dyspepsia, or into the clutches of some international brigandaxio, who declares he is a cordon bleu. One hears now and again pleasant remarks about the worn-out Latin races, but I know of one Latin race which can do better than this in cookery." And having thus delivered herself, the Marchesa lay back on the pillows and reviewed the situation. She was sorry in a way to miss the Colonel's dinner. The dishes which the Bengali cook turned out were excellent, but the host himself was a trifle dictatorial and too fond of the sound of his own voice, while certain of the inevitable guests were still worse. Mrs. Gradinger's letter came as a relief. Indeed, the Marchesa had been wondering why she had ever consented to go and pretend to enjoy herself by eating an ill-cooked dinner in company with social reformers and educational prigs. She really went because she liked Mr. Gradinger, who was as unlike his wife as possible, a stout youth of 40, with a breezy manner and a decided fondness for sport. Lady Considine's dinners were indifferent, and the guests were apt to be a bit too smart and too redolent of last season's Monte Carlo odor. The Sinclairs gave good dinners to perfectly selected guests, and by reason of this virtue, When not too common, the host and hostess might be pardoned for being a little too well satisfied with themselves and with their last new bibelot. The Fothergill dinners were like all other dinners given by the Fothergills of society. They were costly, utterly undistinguished, and invariably graced by the presence of certain guests who seemed to have been called in out of the street at the last moment. Van der Rohe's Japanese menus were curious and at times inimical to digestion, but the personality of the host was charming. As to Sir John Oglethorpe, the question of the dinner postponed troubled her little. Another repast, the finest that London's finest restaurant could furnish, would certainly be forthcoming before long. In Sir John's case, her discomposure took the form of sympathy for her friend in his recent bereavement. He had been searching all his life for a perfect cook, and he had found, or believed he had found, such an one in Narcissus. Wherefore the Marchesa was fully persuaded that, if that artist should evade the guillotine, she would again taste his incomparable handiwork, even though he were suspected of murdering his whole family as well as the partner of his joys. That same afternoon, a number of the balked entertainers foregathered in the Marchesa's drawing-room, the dominant subject of discourse being the approaching dissolution of London society from the refusal of one human to cook food for another. Those present were gathered in two groups. In one, the colonel, in spite of the recent desertion of his Oriental, was asserting that the government should be required to bring over consignments of perfectly trained Indian cooks, and thus trim the balance between dining room and kitchen. And to the other Mrs. Gradinger, a gaunt, ill-dressed lady in spectacles, with a commanding nose and dull, wispy hair, was proclaiming in a steady metallic voice that it was absolutely necessary to double the school rate at once in order to convert all the girls and some of the boys as well into perfectly equipped food-cooking animals. But her audience gradually fell away, and in an interval of silence, the voice of the hostess was heard giving utterance to a tentative suggestion. But, my dear, it is inconceivable that the comfort and the movement of society should depend on the humors of its servants. I don't blame them for refusing to cook if they dislike cooking, and can find other work as light and as well paid. But things being as they are, I would suggest that we set to work somehow to make ourselves independent of cooks. That somehow is the crux, my dear Livia, said Mrs. Sinclair. I have a plan of my own, but I dare not breathe it, for I'm sure Mrs. Gradinger would call it antisocial, whatever that may mean. I should imagine that it is a term which might be applied to any scheme which robs society of the ministrations of its cooks, said Sir John. I have heard mathematicians declare that what is true of the whole is true of its parts, said the Marchesa. I dare say it is, but I never stop to inquire. I will amplify on my own account and lay down that what is true of the parts must be true of the whole. I'm sure that sounds quite right. Now I, as a unit of society, am independent of cooks because I can cook myself, and if all the other units were independent, society itself would be independent echo. To speak in this tone of a serious science like Euclid seems rather frivolous, said Mrs. Gradinger. I may observe, but here mercifully the observation was checked by the entry of Mrs. St. Aubyn Fothergill. She was a handsome woman, always dominated by an air of serious preoccupation, sumptuously, but not tastefully dressed. In the social struggle upwards, wealth was the only weapon she possessed, and wealth without dexterity has been known to fail before this. She made efforts, indeed, to imitate Mrs. Sinclair in the elegancies of menage, and to pose as a woman of mind after the pattern of Mrs. Gradinger. But the task first named required too much tact, and the other powers of endurance which she did not possess. "You'll have some tea, Mrs. Fothergill," said the Marchesa. "It's so good of you to have come." "No, really, I can't take any tea. In fact, I couldn't take any lunch out of vexation at having to put you off, my dear Marchesa." "Oh, these accidents will occur. We were just discussing the best way of getting round them," said the Marchesa. "Now, dear," speaking to Mrs. Sinclair, "let's have your plan. Mrs. Gradinger has fastened like a leech on the Canon and Mrs. Welding, and won't hear a word of what you have to say." "Well, my scheme is just an amplification of your mathematical illustrations, that we should all learn to cook for ourselves. I regard it no longer as impossible or even difficult, since you have informed us that you are a mistress of the art. We'll start a new school of cookery, and you shall teach us all you know." "Ah, my dear Laura, You are like certain English women in the hunting field. You are inclined to rush your fences, said the Marchesa with a deprecatory gesture. And just look at the people gathered here in this room. Wouldn't they, to continue the horsey metaphor, be rather an awkward team to drive? Not at all, if you had them in suitable surroundings. Now, supposing some beneficent millionaire were to lend us for a month or so a nice country house, we might install you there as mistress of the stewpans, and sit at your feet as disciples, said Mrs. Sinclair. The idea seems first-rate, said Van der Rohe. And I suppose, if we are good little boys and girls and learn our lessons properly, we may be allowed to taste some of our own dishes. Might not that lead to a confusion between rewards and punishments, said Sir John. If ever it comes to that, said Miss Macdonald with a mischievous glance out of a pair of dark, flashing Celtic eyes, I hope that our mistress will inspect carefully all pupils' work before we are asked to eat it. I don't want to sit down to another of Mr. Van der Rohe's Japanese salads made of periwinkles and wallflowers. And we must first catch our millionaire, said the Colonel. During these remarks, Mrs. Fothergill had been standing with parted lips and straining eyes, the eyes of one who is seeking to cut in. Now came her chance. What a delightful idea dear Mrs. Sinclair's is. We have been dreadfully extravagant this year over buying pictures, and have doubled our charitable subscriptions, but I believe I can still promise to act in a humble way the part of Mrs. Sinclair's millionaire. We have just finished doing up the Laurestinas, a little place we bought last year, and it is quite at your service, Marchesa, as soon as you like to occupy it. This unlooked-for proposition almost took away the Marchesa's breath. Ah, Mrs. Fothergill, she said, it was Mrs. Sinclair's plan, not mine. She kindly wishes to turn me into a cook for I know not how long, just at the hottest season of the year, a fate I should hardly have chosen for myself. My dear, it would be a new sensation, and one you would enjoy beyond everything. I am sure it is a scheme everyone here will hail with acclamation, said Mrs. Sinclair. All other conversation had now ceased, and the eyes of the rest of the company were fixed on the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, she went on, you have heard my suggestion, and you have heard Mrs. Fothergill's most kind and opportune offer of her country house as the seat of our school of cookery. Such an opportunity is 1 in 10,000. Surely all of us, even the Marchesa, must see that it is one not to be neglected. I approve thoroughly, said Mrs. Gradinger. The acquisition of knowledge, even in so material a field as that of cookery, is always a clear gain. It will give Gradinger a chance to put in a couple of days at Ascot, whispered Van der Rohe. Where Mrs. Gradinger leads, all must follow, said Miss Macdonald. Take the sense of the meeting, Mrs. Sinclair, before the Marchesa has time to enter a protest. And is the proposed instructress to have no voice in the matter, said the Marchesa, laughing. None at all, except to consent, said Mrs. Sinclair. You are going to be absolute mistress over us for the next fortnight, so you surely might obey just this once. You have been denouncing one of our cherished institutions, Marchesa, said Lady Considine. So I consider you are bound to help us to replace the British cook by something better. If Mrs. Sinclair has set her heart on this interesting experiment, you may as well consent at once, Marchesa, said the Colonel, and teach us how to cook, and what may be a harder task to teach us to eat what other aspirants may have cooked. If this scheme really comes off, said Sir John, I would suggest that the Marchesa should always be provided with a plate of her own up her sleeve if I may use such an expression, so that any void in the menu, caused by failure on the part of the underskilled or overambitious amateur, may be filled by what will certainly be a chef d'oeuvre. I shall back up Mrs. Sinclair's proposition with all my power, said Mrs. Wilding. The Canon will be in residence at Martlebridge for the next month, and I would much rather be learning cookery under the Marchesa than staying with my brother-in-law at Ealing. You'll have to do it, Marchesa, said Van der Rohe. When a new idea catches on like this, there's no resisting it. Well, I consent on one condition, that my rule shall be absolute, said the Marchesa, and I begin my career as an autocrat by giving Mrs. Fothergill a list of the educational machinery I shall want, and commanding her to have them all ready by Tuesday morning, the day on which I declare the school open. A chorus of applause went up as soon as the Marchesa ceased speaking. Everything shall be ready, said Mrs. Fothergill, radiant with delight that her offer had been accepted, And I will put in a full staff of servants selected from our 3 other establishments. Would it not be as well to send the cook home for a holiday? Said the colonel. It might be safer and lead to less broth being spoilt. It seems, said Sir John, that we shall be 10 in number, and I would therefore propose that, after an illustrious precedent, we limit our operations to 10 days. Then, if we each produce 1 culinary poem a day, we shall, at the end of our time, have provided the world with 100 new reasons for enjoying life, supposing, of course, that we have no failures. I propose, therefore, that our society be called the New Decameron. Most appropriate, said Miss Macdonald, especially as it owes its origin to an outbreak of the plague in the kitchen. The first day. On the Tuesday morning, the Marchesa traveled down to the Laurestinas, where she found that Mrs. Fothergill had been as good as her word. Everything was in perfect order. The Marchesa had notified to her pupils that they must report themselves that same evening at dinner, and she took down with her maid, one of those marvelous Italian servants who combine fidelity with efficiency in a degree strange to the denizens of more progressive lands. Now, with Angelina's assistance, she proposed to set before the company their first dinner all'Italiana, and the last they would taste without having participated in the preparation. The real work was to begin the following morning. The dinner was both a revelation and a surprise to the majority of the company. All were well traveled, and all had eaten of the mongrel French dishes given at the grand hotels of the principal Italian cities, and some of them, in search of adventures, had dined at London restaurants with Italian names over the doors, where with certain honorable exceptions the cookery was French, and not of the best, certain Italian plates being included in the cart for a regular clientele, dishes which would always be passed over by the English investigator, because he now read or tried to read their names for the first time. Few of the Marchesa's pupils had ever wandered away from the arid table d'hôte in Milan, or Florence, or Rome, in search of the ristorante at which the better class of townsfolk were wont to take their colazioni. Indeed, whenever an Englishman does break fresh ground in this direction, he rarely finds sufficient presence of mind to controvert the suggestions of the smiling minister, who, having spotted his Inglese, at once marks down an omelette ox fines herbs and a biftec ox palms as the only food such a creature can consume. Thus the culinary experiences of Englishmen in Italy have led to the perpetuation of the legend that the traveler can indeed find decent food in the large towns, because the cooking there is all French, you know. But that, if he should deviate from the beaten track, unutterable horrors, swimming in oil and reeking with garlic, would be his portion. Oil and garlic are in popular English belief the inseparable accidents of Italian cookery, which is supposed to gather its solitary claim to individuality from the never-failing presence of these admirable, but easily abused, gifts of nature. "You have given us a delicious dinner, Marchesa," said Mrs. Welding as the coffee appeared. "You mustn't think me captious in my remarks. Indeed, it would be most ungracious to look a gift dinner in the what are you laughing at, Sir John? I suppose I've done something awful with my metaphors, mixed them up somehow. Everything Mrs. Welding mixes will be mixed admirably, say, as that sauce which was served with the manzo alla Certosina," Sir John replied. "That is said in your best style, Sir John," replied Mrs. Welding. "But what I was going to remark was, that I, as a poor parson's wife, shall ask for some instruction in inexpensive cooking before we separate. The dinner we have just eaten is surely only within the reach of rich people. I wish some of the rich people I dine with could manage now, and then to reach a dinner as good," said the colonel. "I believe it is a generally received maxim, that if you want a truth to be accepted, you must repeat the same in season and out, whenever you have the opportunity," said the Marchesa. "The particular truth I have now in mind is the fact that Italian cookery is the cookery of a poor nation, of people who have scant means wherewith to purchase the very inferior materials they must needs work with, and that they produce palatable food at all is, I maintain, a proof that they bring high intelligence to the task. Italian culinary methods have been developed in the struggle when the cook, working with an allowance upon which an English cook would resign at once, has succeeded by careful manipulation and the study of flavoring in turning out excellent dishes made of fish and meat confessedly inferior. Now, if we loosen the purse strings a little, and use the best English materials. I affirm that we shall achieve a result excellent enough to prove that Italian cookery is worthy to take its stand beside its great French rival. I am glad, Mrs. Wilding has given me an opportunity to impress upon you all that its main characteristics are simplicity and cheapness, and I can assure her that, even if she should reproduce the most costly dishes of our course, she will not find any serious increase in her weekly bills. When I use the word simplicity, I allude, of course, to everyday cooking. Dishes of luxury in any school require elaboration, care, and watchfulness. Menu dinner, asterisk. Zuppa d'uova alla Toscana. Tuscan egg soup, sagliole alla Livornese, sole alla Livornese, manzo alla Sardicina. Filet of beef, Sardicina sauce, minuta alla Milanese. Chickens' livers alla Milanese, cavalli fiori ripiani. Cauliflower with forcemeat, capon arrosto con insalata. Roast capon with salad, zabajone. Spiced custard, uova al pomodoro. Eggs and tomatoes. The recipes for the dishes contained in all these menus will be found in the second part of the book. The limits of the seasons have necessarily been ignored. The second day. Wednesday's luncheon was anticipated with some curiosity or even searchings of heart, as in it would appear the first fruits of the hand of the amateur. The Marchesa wisely restricted it to 2 dishes, for the compounding of which she requisitioned the services of Lady Considine Mrs. Sinclair and the Colonel. The others she sent to watch Angelina and her circle while they were preparing the vegetables and the dinner entrees. After the luncheon dishes had been discussed, they were both proclaimed admirable. It was a true bit of Italian finesse on the part of the Marchesa to lay a share of the responsibility of the first meal upon the Colonel, who was notoriously the most captious and the hardest to please of all the company. And she did even more than make him jointly responsible, for she authorized him to see to the production of a special curry of his own invention, the recipe for which he always carried in his pocketbook, thus letting India share with Italy in the honors of the first luncheon. "My congratulations to you on your curry, Colonel Trestrill," said Miss Macdonald. "You haven't followed the English fashion of flavoring a curry by emptying the pepper pot into the dish." "Pepper properly used is the most admirable of condiments," the Colonel said. "Why this association of the Colonel and pepper?" said Van der Rohe. "In this society we ought to be as nice in our phraseology as in our flavorings, and be careful to eschew the incongruous. You are coughing, Mrs. Wilding. Let me give you some water." "I think it must have been one of those rare grains of the Colonel's pepper, for you must have a little pepper in a curry, mustn't you, Colonel? Though, as Miss Macdonald says, English cooks generally overdo it." "Vander is in one of his pleasant, witty moods," said the Colonel, "but I fancy I know as much about the use of pepper as he does about the use of oil colors. And now we have got upon art criticism, I may remark, my dear Vander, I have been reminded that you have been poaching on my ground. I saw a landscape of yours the other day, which looked as if some of my curry powder had got into the sunset. I mean the one poor blind old Wilkins bought at your last show." "Ah, but that sunset was an inspiration, Colonel, and consequently beyond your comprehension." "It is easy to talk of inspiration," said Sir John, "and, perhaps, now that we are debating a matter of real importance, we might spend our time more profitably than in discussing what is and what is not a good picture. Some inspiration has been brought into our symposium. I venture to affirm that the brain which devised and the hand which executed the tenerumi di vitalo we have just tasted were both of them inspired. In the construction of this dish, there is to be recognized a breath of the same afflatus which gave us the Florentine campanile, and the Medici tombs, and the portrait of Mona Lisa. When we stand before any one of these masterpieces, we realize at a glance how keen must have been the primal insight, and how strenuous the effort necessary for the evolution of so consummate an achievement. And, with the savor of the tenerumi di vitalo still fresh, I feel that it deserves to be added to the list of Italian capo lavori. Now, as I was not fortunate enough to be included in the pupils' class this morning, I must beg the next time the dish is presented to us, and I imagine all present will hail its renaissance with joy, that I may be allowed to lend a hand, or even a finger, in its preparation. Veal, with the possible exception of Lombard beef, is the best meat we get in Italy," said the Marchesa. "So an Italian cook, when he wants to produce a meat dish of the highest excellence, generally turns to veal as a basis." I must say that the breast of veal, which is the part we had for lunch today, is a somewhat insipid dish when cooked English fashion. That we have been able to put it before you in more palatable form, and to win for it the approval of such a connoisseur as Sir John Oglethorpe, is largely owing to the judicious use of that Italian terror more dire to many English than paper money or brigand's garlic. The quantity used was infinitesimal, said Mrs. Sinclair, but it seems to have been enough to subdue what I once heard Sir John describe as the pallid solidity of the innocent calf. I fear the vein of incongruity in our discourse, lately noted by Vander wrote, is not quite exhausted, said Sir John. The colonel was up in arms on account of a too intimate association of his name with pepper, and now Mrs. Sinclair has bracketed me with the calf, a most useful animal, I grant, but scarcely one I should have chosen as a yokefellow, but this is a digression. To return to our veal. I had a notion that garlic had something to do with the triumph of the tenerumi. And, this being the case, I think it would be well if the Marchesa were to give us a dissertation on the use of this invaluable product. As Mrs. Sinclair says, the admixture of garlic in the dish in question was a very small one, and English people somehow never seem to realize that garlic must always be used sparingly. The chief positive idea they have of its characteristics is that which they gather from the odor of a French or Italian crowd of peasants at a railway station. The effect of garlic, eaten in lumps as an accompaniment to bread and cheese, is naturally awful, but garlic used as it should be used is the soul, the divine essence, of cookery. The palate delights in it without being able to identify it, and the surest proof of its charm is manifested by the flatness and insipidity which will infallibly characterize any dish usually flavored with it, if by chance this dish should be prepared without it. The cook who can employ it successfully will be found to possess the delicacy of perception, the accuracy of judgment, and the dexterity of hand, which go to the formation of a great artist. It is a primary maxim, and one which cannot be repeated too often, that garlic must never be cut up and used as part of the material of any dish. One small incision should be made in the clove, which should be put into the dish during the process of cooking, and allowed to remain there until the cook's palate gives warning that flavor enough has been extracted. Then it must be taken out at once. This rule does not apply in equal degree to the use of the onion, the large, mild varieties of which may be cooked and eaten in many excellent bourgeois dishes. But in all fine cooking, where the onion flavor is wanted, the same treatment which I have prescribed for garlic must be followed. The Marchesa gave the colonel and Lady Considine a holiday that afternoon, and requested Mrs. Gradinger and Van Dare wrote to attend in the kitchen to help with the dinner. In the first few days of the session, the main portion of the work naturally fell upon the Marchesa and Angelina, and in spite of the inroads made upon their time by the necessary directions to the neophytes, and of the occasional eccentricities of the neophytes' energies, the dinners and luncheons were all that could be desired. The colonel was not quite satisfied with the flavor of one particular soup, and Mrs. Gradinger was of opinion that one of the entrees, which she wanted to superintend herself, but which the Marchesa handed over to Mrs. Sinclair, had a great deal too much butter in its composition. Her conscience revolted at the action of consuming in one dish enough butter to solace the breakfast table of an honest working man for 2 or 3 days. But the faintness of these criticisms seemed to prove that everyone was well satisfied with the rendering of the menu of the day. Menu lunch: pollo all'olive, fowl with olives, scallopine di rive, veal cutlets with rice, sedani alla parmigiana, stewed celery. Menu dinner: zuppa primaverile, spring soup saute di salmon al fungi, salmon with mushrooms, tenerumi d'agnello alla veneziana, breast of lamb alla veneziana, testa di vitello alla sorrentina, calf's head alla sorrentina, fagiano alla perigo, pheasant with truffles, torta alla cremonese, cremona tart uova alla fiorentina, egg savory. The 7th day. It seems invidious to give special praise where everything is so good, said Mrs. Sinclair next day at lunch, but I must say a word about that clear soup we had at dinner last night. I have never ceased to regret that my regard for manners forbade me ask for a second helping. See what it is to have no manners, said Van Dare wrote. I plunged boldly for another portion of that admirable preparation of calf's head at dinner. If I hadn't, I should have regretted it forever after. Now, I'm sure you are just as curious about the construction of these masterpieces as I am, Mrs. Sinclair, so we'll beg the Marchesa to let us into the secret. Mrs. Sinclair herself had a hand in the calf's head dish, testa di vitello alla sorrentina, so perhaps I may hand over that part of the question to her. I am very proud that one of my pupils should have won praise from such a distinguished expert as Mr. Van der Rote, and I leave her to expound the mystery of its charm. I think I may without presumption claim the clear soup as a triumph, and it is a discovery of my own. The same calf's head which Mrs. Sinclair has treated with such consummate skill served also as the foundation for the stock of the clear soup. This stock certainly derived its distinction from the addition of the liquor in which the head was boiled. A good consomme can no doubt be made with stock meat alone, but the best soup thus made will be inferior to that we had for dinner last night. Without the calf's head you will never get such softness, combined with full roundness on the tongue, and the great merit of calf's head is that it lets you attain this excellence without any sacrifice of transparency. I have marveled often at the clearness of your soups, Marchesa, said the colonel. What clearing do you use to make them look like pale sherry? No one has any claim to be called a cook who cannot make soup without artificial clearing, said the Marchesa. Like the poet, the consomme is born, not made. It must be clear from the beginning, an achievement which needs care and trouble like every other artistic effort, but one nevertheless well within the reach of any student who means to succeed. To clear a soup by the ordinary medium of white of egg or minced beef is to destroy all flavor and individuality. If the stock be kept from boiling until it has been strained, it will develop into a perfectly clear soup under the hands of a careful and intelligent cook. The fleeting delicate aroma which, as every gourmet will admit, gives such grateful aid to the palate, is the breath of garden herbs and of herbs alone, and here I have a charge to bring against contemporary cookery. I mean the neglect of natural in favor of manufactured flavorings. With regard to herbs, this could not always have been the rule, for I never go into an old English garden without finding there a border with all the good old-fashioned pot herbs growing lustily. I do not say that the use of herbs is unknown, for of course the best cookery is impossible without them, but I fear that sage mixed with onion is about the only one which ever tickles the palate of the great English middle class. And simultaneously with the use of herb flavoring in soup has arisen the practice of adding wine, which to me seems a very questionable one. If wine is put in soup at all, it must be used so sparingly as to render its presence imperceptible. Why then use it at all? In some sauces wine is necessary, but in all cases it is as difficult to regulate as garlic, and requires the utmost vigilance on the part of the cook. My last cook, who was very stout and a little middle-aged, would always use flavoring sauces from the grocer's rather than walk up to the garden, where we have a most seductive herb bed, said Mrs. Wilding. And then, again, the love of the English for pungent-made sauces is another reason for this makeshift practice. Oh, a tablespoonful of somebody's sauce will do for the flavoring, and in goes the sauce, and the flavoring is supposed to be complete. People who eat their chops, and steaks, and fish, and game, after having smothered the natural flavor with the same harsh condiment, may be satisfied with a cuisine of this sort, but to an unvitiated palate the result is nauseous. Yet as a churchwoman, Mrs. Wilding, you ought to speak with respect of English sauces. I think I have heard how a libation of one of them, which was poured over a certain cathedral, has made it look as good as new, said Miss Macdonald, and we have lately learned that one of the most distinguished of our party is ambitious to enter the same career. I would suggest that Sir John should devote all that money he proposes to make by the aid of his familiar spirit the ghost of Narcissa, the building of a temple in honor of the 10th muse, the muse of cookery, said Mrs. Sinclair. And what do you think, Sir John, of a name I dreamt of last night for your sauce, the new century sauce? How will that do? Admirably, said Sir John after a moment's pause. Admirably enough to allow me to offer you a royalty on every bottle sold. The new century sauce, that's the name for me, and now to set to work to build the factory and to order plans for the temple of the 10th muse. Menu lunch. Macaroni al pomodoro. Macaroni with tomatoes, vitello alla pellegrina, veal cutlets alla pellegrina, animal al sapor di tarragon, sweetbread with tarragon sauce. Menu dinner. Zuppa alla Canavese. Soup alla Canavese naselli con piselli. Whiting with peas, cassia di manzo al forno. Braised ribs of beef, lingua alla Visconti. Tongue with grapes, anitra selvatica. Wild duck, zabajone gaiaxiato. Iced syllabub, crostatini alla Capucina. Savory of rice, truffles, and sea. The 8th day. We are getting unpleasantly near the end of our time, said the colonel, but I am sure not one of us has learnt 1/10 of what the Marchesa has to teach. My dear Colonel Trestrel, said the Marchesa, an education in cookery does not mean the teaching of a certain number of recipes. Education, I maintain, is something far higher than the mere imparting of facts. My notion of it is the teaching of people to teach themselves, and this is what I have tried to do in the kitchen. With some of you I am sure I have succeeded, and a book containing the recipe of every dish we have tried will be given to every pupil when we break up. I think the most valuable lesson I have learnt is that cookery is a matter for serious study, said Mrs. Sinclair. The popular English view seems to be that it is one of those things which gets itself done. The food is subjected to the action of heat, a little butter, or pepper, or onion, being added by way of flavoring, and the process is complete. To put it bluntly, it requires at least as much mental application to roast a fowl as to cut a bodice. But it does not strike the average Englishwoman in this way, for she will spend hours in thinking and talking about dressmaking, which is generally as ill done as her cooking, while she will be reluctant to give 10 minutes to the consideration as to how a luncheon or supper dish shall be prepared. The English middle classes are most culpably negligent about the food they eat, and as a consequence, they get exactly the sort of cooks they deserve to get. I do not blame the cooks. If they can get paid for cooking ill, why should they trouble to learn to cook well? I agree entirely, said Mrs. Wilding. That saying, what I like is good plain roast and boiled, and none of your foreign kickshaws, is, as everyone knows, the stock utterance of John Bull on the stage or in the novel. And though John Bull is not in the least like his fictitious presentment, this form of words is largely responsible for the waste and want of variety in the English kitchen. The plain roast and boiled means a joint every day, and this arrangement the good plain cook finds an admirable one for several reasons. It means little trouble, and it means also lots of scraps and bones and waste pieces. The good plain cook brings all the forces of obstruction to bear whenever the mistress suggests made dishes, and, should this suggestion ever be carried out, she takes care that the achievement shall be of a character not likely to invite repetition. Not long ago, a friend of mine was questioning a cook as to soups, whereupon the cook answered that she had never been required to make such things where she had lived. All soups were bought in tins or bottles and had simply to be warmed up. Cakes, too, were outside her repertoire, having always been had in from the confectioners, while entries were in her opinion, and in the opinion of her various mistresses, unhealthy and not worth making. My experience is that, if a mistress takes an interest in cooking, she will generally have a fairly efficient cook, said Mrs. Fothergill. I agree with Mrs. Sinclair that our English cooks are spoilt by neglect, and I think it is hard upon them, as a class, that so many inefficient women should be able to pose as cooks while they are unable to boil a potato properly. And the so-called schools of cookery are quite useless in what they teach, said Miss MacDonald. I once sent a cook of mine to one to learn how to make a clear soup, and when she came back, she sent up, as an evidence of her progress, a potato pie colored pink and green, a most poisonous-looking dish, and her clear soups were as bad as ever. Said the colonel, I will beg leave to enter a protest against the imperfections of that repast, which is supposed to be the peculiar delight of the ladies. I allude to afternoon tea. I want to know why it is that unless I happen to call just when the tea is brought up I grant. I know of a few houses which are honorable exceptions. I am fated to drink that most abominable of all decoctions, stewed lukewarm tea. Will you have some tea? I'm afraid it isn't quite fresh. The hostess will remark without a blush. What would she think if her husband at dinner were to say, Colonel, take a glass of that champagne. It was opened the day before yesterday, and I dare say the fizz has gone off a little. Tea is cheap enough, and yet the hostess seldom or never thinks of ordering up a fresh pot. I believe it is because she is afraid of the butler. I sympathize with you fully, Colonel, said Lady Considine, and my withers are unwrung. You do not often honor me with your presence on Tuesdays, but I am sure I may claim to be one of your honorable exceptions. Indeed you may, said the colonel. Perhaps men ought not to intrude on these occasions, but I have a preference for taking tea in a pretty drawing-room with a lot of agreeable women, rather than in a club surrounded by old chaps growling over the latest job at the War Office, and a younger brigade chattering about the latest tape prices and the weights for the spring handicaps. All these little imperfections go to prove that we are not a nation of cooks, said Van der Rohe. We can't be everything. Heine once said that the Romans would never have found time to conquer the world if they had been obliged to learn the Latin grammar, and it is the same with us. We can't expect to found an empire all over the planet and cook as well as the French, who perhaps wisely never willingly emerge from the four corners of their own land. There is energy enough left in us when we set about some purely utilitarian task, said Mrs. Welding, but we never throw ourselves into the arts with the enthusiasm of the Latin races. I was reading the other day of a French costumer who rushed to inform a lady, who had ordered a turban, of his success, exclaiming, Madame, après trots nuns d'insomnie les plumes vent places. And every one knows the story of Vadel's suicide because the fish failed to arrive. No Englishman would be capable of flights like these. Really, this indictment of English cookery makes me a little nervous, said Lady Considine. I have promised to join in a driving tour through the southern counties. I shudder to think of the dinners I shall have to eat at the commercial hotels and posting houses on our route. English country inns are not what they ought to be, but now and then you come across one which is very good indeed, as good, if not better, than anything you could find in any other country. But I fear I must admit that, charges considered, the balance is against us, said Sir John. When you start you ought to secure Sir John's services as courier, Lady Considine, said the Marchesa. I once had the pleasure of driving for a week through the Apennines in a party under his guidance, and I can assure you we found him quite honest and obliging. Ah, Marchesa, I was thinking of that happy time this very morning, said Sir John. Of Arezzo, where we were kept for 3 days by rain, which I believe is falling there still. Of Cortona, with that wonderful little restaurant on the edge of the cliff, whence you see Thrasymene lying like a silver mirror in the plain below. Of Perugia the August, of Gubbio, Città di Castello, Borgo San Sepolcro, Urbino, and divers others. If you go for a drive in Italy, you still may meet with humours of the road, such as travellers of old were wont to enjoy. I well remember on the road between Perugia and Gubbio, we began to realize we were indeed traversing mountain paths. On a sudden the driver got down, waved his arms, and howled to some peasants working in a field below. These, on their part, responded with more arm-waving and howling, directed apparently towards a village farther up the hill, whereupon we were assailed with visions of brigands and amputated ears and ransom. But at a turn of the road we came upon 2 magnificent white oxen which, being harnessed on in front, drew us, and our carriages and horses as well, up 5 miles of steep incline. These beautiful fellows, it seemed, were what the driver was signaling for, and not for brigands. Again, every inn we stayed at supplied us with some representative touch of local life and habit. Here the whole personnel of the inn, reinforced by a goodly contingent of the townsfolk, would accompany us even into our bedrooms and display the keenest interest in the unpacking of our luggage. There the cook would come and take personal instructions as to the coming meal, throwing out suggestions the while as to the merits of this or that particular dish. And in one place, the ancient chambermaid insisted that one of the ladies, who had got a slight cold, should have the preat put into her bed for a short time to warm it. You need not look shocked, Colonel. The preat in question was merely a wooden frame, in the midst of which hangs a scaldino filled with burning ashes, a most comforting ecclesiastic, I can assure you. All the inns we visited had certain characteristics in common. The entrance is always dirty, and the staircase too, the dining rooms fairly comfortable, the bedrooms always clean and good, and the food much better than you would expect to find in such out-of-the-way places. Indeed, I cannot think of any inn where it was not good and wholesome, while often it was delicious. In short, Lady Considine, I strongly advise you to take a drive in Italy next spring, and if I am free I shall be delighted to act as courier. Sir John has forgotten 1 or 2 touches I must fill in, said the Marchesa. It was often difficult to arrange a stopping place for lunch, so we always stocked our basket before starting. After the first day's experience, we decided that it was vastly more pleasant to take our meal while going uphill at a foot pace. than in the swing and jolt of a descent, so the route and the pace of the horses had to be regulated in order to give us a good hour's ascent about noon. Fortunately, hills are plentiful in this part of Italy, and in the keen air we generally made an end of the vast store of provisions we laid in, and the generous fiasco was always empty a little too soon. Our drive came to an end at Fano, whither we had gone on account of a strange, romantic desire of Sir John to look upon an angel which Browning had named in one of his poems. Ah, how vividly I can recall our pursuit of that picture. It was a wet, melancholy day. The people of Fano were careless of the fame of their angel, for no one knew the church which it graced. At last we came upon it by the merest chance, and Sir John led the procession up to the shrine, where we all stood for a time in positions of mock admiration. Sir John tried hard to keep up the imposition, but something, either his innate honesty or the chilling environment of disapproval of Guercino's handiwork, was too much for him. He did his best to admire, but the task was beyond his powers, and he raised no protest when some scoffer affirmed that, though Browning might be a great poet, he was a mighty poor judge of painting, when he gave in his beautiful poem immortality to this tawdry theatrical canvas. "I think," said Sir John, "we had better go back to the hotel and order lunch. It would have been wiser to have ordered it before we left." We were all so much touched by his penitence that no one had the heart to remind him how a proposition as to lunch had been made by our leading Philistine as soon as we arrived. A proposition waved aside by Sir John as inadmissible until the guardian angel should have been seen and admired. "I plead guilty," said Sir John. "I think this experience gave a death blow to my career as an appreciator. Anyhow, I quite forget what the angel was like, and for reminiscences of Fano have to fall back upon the excellent colazione we ate in the externally unattractive but internally admirable Albergo del Moro. Menu lunch: Istacchi all'italiana, lobster all'italiana filetto di bue alla napoletana, fillet of beef with Neapolitan sauce, risotto alla spagnuola, savory rice. Menu dinner: zuppa alla romana, soup with quenelles, salmon alla genovese, salmon alla genovese, costolette in agrodolce, mutton cutlets with Roman sauce, flano di spinaci, spinach in a mold, capon con rive, capon with rice, croccante di mandorle, almond sweet, ostrich alla napoletana, oyster savory. The 9th day. Since I have been associated with the production of a dinner, I have had my eyes opened as to the complicated nature of the task, and the numerous strings which have to be pulled in order to ensure success, said the Colonel. But, seeing that a dinner party with well-chosen sympathetic guests and distinguished dishes represents one of the consummate triumphs of civilization, there is no reason to wonder. To achieve a triumph of any sort demands an effort. "Effort," said Miss Macdonald. "Yes, effort is the word I associate with so many middle-class English dinners. It is an effort to the hosts, who regard the whole business as a mere paying off of debts, and an effort to the guests, who, as they go to dress, recall grisly memories of former similar experiences. It often astonishes me that dinner-giving of this character should still flourish." "The explanation is easy," said Van der Rohe. "It flourishes because it gives a mark of distinction. It is a delicious moment for Mrs. Johnson when she is able to say to Mrs. Thompson, 'My dear, I am quite worn out. We dined out every day last week and have 4 more dinners in the next 5 days.' These good people show their British grit by the persistency with which they go on with their penitential hospitality, and their lack of ideas in never attempting to modify it so as to make it a pleasure instead of a disagreeable duty." "It won't do to generalize too widely, Van der Rohe," said Sir John. "Some of these good people surely enjoy their party giving, and from my own experience of 1 or 2 houses of this sort, I can assure you the food is quite respectable. The great imperfection seems to lie in the utter want of consideration in the choice of guests. A certain number of people and a certain quantity of food shot into a room, that is their notion of a dinner party. Of course, we understand that the success of a dinner depends much more on the character of the guests than on the character of the food," said Mrs. Sinclair. "And most of us, I take it, are able to fill our tables with pleasant friends. But what of the dull people who know none but dull people? What gain will they get by taking counsel how they shall fill their tables?" "More, perhaps, than you think, dear Mrs. Sinclair," said Sir John. Dull people often enjoy themselves immensely when they meet dull people only. The frost comes when the host unwisely mixes in one or two guests of another sort people who give themselves airs of finding more pleasure in reading Stevenson than the sixpenny magazines, and who don't know where Hurlingham is. Then the sheep begin to segregate themselves from the goats, and the feast is mank. Considering what a trouble and anxiety a dinner party must be to the hostess, even under the most favoring conditions, I am always at a loss to discover why so many women take so much pains and spend a considerable sum of money as well over details which are unessential, or even noxious, said Mrs. Wilding. A few flowers on the table are all very well. One bowl in the center is enough, but in many houses the cost of the flowers equals, if it does not outrun, the cost of all the rest of the entertainment. A few roses or chrysanthemums are perfect as accessories, but to load a table with flowers of heavy or pungent scent is an outrage. Lilies of the valley are lovely in proper surroundings, but on a dinner table they are anathema. And then the mass of paper monstrosities which crowd every corner. Swans, nautilus shells, and even wild boars are used to hold up the menu. Once my menu was printed on a satin flag, and during the war the universal khaki invaded the dinner table. Ices are served in frilled baskets of paper, which have a tendency to dissolve and amalgamate with the sweet. The only paper on the table should be the menu, writ plain on a handsome card. No one can complain of papery ices here, said the Marchesa. Ices may be innocuous, but I don't favor them, and no one seems to have felt the want of them. At least, to adopt the phrase of the London shopkeeper, I have had no complaints. And even the ice, the very emblem of purity, has not escaped the touch of the dinner table decorator. Only a few days ago I helped myself with my fingers to what looked like a lovely peach, and let it flop down into the lap of a bishop who was sitting next to me. This was the hostess's pretty taste in ices. They are generally made in the shape of camellias this season, said Vander wrote. I knew a man who took one and stuck it in his buttonhole. I must say I enjoy an ice at dinner, said Lady Considine. I know the doctors abuse them, but I notice they always eat them when they get the chance. Ah, that is merely human inconsistency, said Sir John. I am inclined to agree with the Marchesa that ice at dinner is an incongruity and may well be dispensed with. I think I am correct, Marchesa, in assuming that Italy, which has showered so many boons upon us, gave us also the taste for ices. I fear I must agree, said the Marchesa. I now feel what a blessing it would have been for you English if you had learnt from us instead the art of cooking the admirable vegetables your gardens produce. How is it that English cookery has never found any better treatment for vegetables than to boil them quite plain? French beans so treated are tender, and of a pleasant texture on the palate, but I have never been able to find any taste in them. They are tasteless largely because the cook persists in shredding them into minute bits, and I maintain that they ought to be cooked whole certainly when they are young and sautés, a perfectly plain and easy process, which is hard to beat. Plain boiled cauliflower is doubtless good, but cooked à la crema it is far better. Indeed, it is one of the best vegetable dishes I know. But perhaps the greatest discovery in cookery we Italians ever made was the combination of vegetables and cheese. There are a dozen excellent methods of cooking cauliflower with cheese, and one of these has come to you through France, choux-fleurs au gratin, and has become popular. Jerusalem artichokes treated in the same fashion are excellent, and the cucumber, nearly always eaten raw in England, holds a first place as a vegetable for cooking. I seem to remember that everyone was loud in its praises when we tasted it as an adjunct to manzo alla surdicina. Why is it that celery is for the most part only eaten raw with cheese? We have numberless methods of cooking it in Italy, and beetroot and lettuce as well. There is no spinach so good as English, and nowhere is it so badly cooked. It is always coarse and gritty because so little trouble is taken with it, and I can assure you that the smooth, delicate dish which we call flano di spinaci is not produced merely by boiling and chopping it, and turning it out into a dish. Menu lunch. Pollo all'olive, fowl with olives, scallopine di rive, veal cutlets with rice, sedani alla parmigiana, stewed celery. Menu dinner. Zuppa primaverile, spring soup saute di salmone al funghi, salmon with mushrooms, tenerumi d'agnello alla veneziana, breast of lamb alla veneziana, testa di vitello alla sorrentina, calf's head alla sorrentina, fagiano alla perigo, pheasant with truffles, torta alla cremonese, cremona tart uova alla fiorentina, egg savory. The 7th day. It seems invidious to give special praise where everything is so good, said Mrs. Sinclair next day at lunch, but I must say a word about that clear soup we had at dinner last night. I have never ceased to regret that my regard for manners forbade me ask for a second helping. See what it is to have no manners, said Van der Rohe. I plunged boldly for another portion of that admirable preparation of calf's head at dinner. If I hadn't, I should have regretted it forever after. Now, I'm sure you are just as curious about the construction of these masterpieces as I am, Mrs. Sinclair, so we'll beg the Marchesa to let us into the secret. Mrs. Sinclair herself had a hand in the calf's head dish, testa di vitello alla sorrentina, so perhaps I may hand over that part of the question to her. I am very proud that one of my pupils should have won praise from such a distinguished expert as Mr. Van der Rohe, and I leave her to expound the mystery of its charm. I think I may without presumption claim the clear soup as a triumph, and it is a discovery of my own. The same calf's head which Mrs. Sinclair has treated with such consummate skill served also as the foundation for the stock of the clear soup. This stock certainly derived its distinction from the addition of the liquor in which the head was boiled. A good consomme can no doubt be made with stock meat alone, but the best soup thus made will be inferior to that we had for dinner last night. Without the calf's head you will never get such softness, combined with full roundness on the tongue, and the great merit of calf's head is that it lets you attain this excellence without any sacrifice of transparency. I have marveled often at the clearness of your soups, Marchesa, said the colonel. What clearing do you use to make them look like pale sherry? No one has any claim to be called a cook who cannot make soup without artificial clearing, said the Marchesa. Like the poet, the consomme is born, not made. It must be clear from the beginning, an achievement which needs care and trouble like every other artistic effort, but one nevertheless well within the reach of any student who means to succeed. To clear a soup by the ordinary medium of white of egg or minced beef is to destroy all flavor and individuality. If the stock be kept from boiling until it has been strained, it will develop into a perfectly clear soup under the hands of a careful and intelligent cook. The fleeting delicate aroma which, as every gourmet will admit, gives such grateful aid to the palate, is the breath of garden herbs and of herbs alone, and here I have a charge to bring against contemporary cookery. I mean the neglect of natural in favor of manufactured flavorings. With regard to herbs, this could not always have been the rule, for I never go into an old English garden without finding there a border with all the good old-fashioned pot herbs growing lustily. I do not say that the use of herbs is unknown, for of course the best cookery is impossible without them, but I fear that sage mixed with onion is about the only one which ever tickles the palate of the great English middle class. And simultaneously with the use of herb flavoring in soup has arisen the practice of adding wine, which to me seems a very questionable one. If wine is put in soup at all, it must be used so sparingly as to render its presence imperceptible. Why then use it at all? In some sauces wine is necessary, but in all cases it is as difficult to regulate as garlic, and requires the utmost vigilance on the part of the cook. My last cook, who was very stout and a little middle-aged, would always use flavoring sauces from the grocer's rather than walk up to the garden, where we have a most seductive herb bed, said Mrs. Wilding. And then, again, the love of the English for pungent-made sauces is another reason for this makeshift practice. Oh, a tablespoonful of somebody's sauce will do for the flavoring, and in goes the sauce, and the flavoring is supposed to be complete. People who eat their chops, and steaks, and fish, and game, after having smothered the natural flavor with the same harsh condiment, may be satisfied with a cuisine of this sort, but to an unvitiated palate the result is nauseous. Yet as a churchwoman, Mrs. Wilding, you ought to speak with respect of English sauces. I think I have heard how a libation of one of them, which was poured over a certain cathedral, has made it look as good as new, said Miss Macdonald, and we have lately learned that one of the most distinguished of our party is ambitious to enter the same career. I would suggest that Sir John should devote all that money he proposes to make by the aid of his familiar spirit the ghost of Narcissa, the building of a temple in honor of the 10th muse, the muse of cookery, said Mrs. Sinclair. And what do you think, Sir John, of a name I dreamt of last night for your sauce, the new century sauce? How will that do? Admirably, said Sir John after a moment's pause. Admirably enough to allow me to offer you a royalty on every bottle sold. The new century sauce, that's the name for me, and now to set to work to build the factory and to order plans for the temple of the 10th Muse. Menu lunch. Macaroni al pomodoro. Macaroni with tomatoes, vitalo alla pellegrina. Veal cutlets alla pellegrina, animal al sapor di tarragon. Sweetbread with tarragon sauce. Menu dinner. Zuppa alla canavese. Soup alla canavese naselli con piselli. Whiting with peas, cassia di manzo al forno. Braised ribs of beef, lingua alla Visconti. Tongue with grapes, anitra selvatica. Wild duck, zabajone gaiaxiato. Iced syllabub crostatini alla capucina. Savory of rice, truffles, and sea. The 8th day. We are getting unpleasantly near the end of our time, said the colonel, but I am sure not one of us has learnt 1/10 of what the Marchesa has to teach. My dear Colonel Trestrel, said the Marchesa, an education in cookery does not mean the teaching of a certain number of recipes. Education, I maintain, is something far higher than the mere imparting of facts. My notion of it is the teaching of people to teach themselves, and this is what I have tried to do in the kitchen. With some of you I am sure I have succeeded, and a book containing the recipe of every dish we have tried will be given to every pupil when we break up. I think the most valuable lesson I have learnt is that cookery is a matter for serious study, said Mrs. Sinclair. The popular English view seems to be that it is one of those things which gets itself done. The food is subjected to the action of heat, a little butter, or pepper, or onion, being added by way of flavoring, and the process is complete. To put it bluntly, it requires at least as much mental application to roast a fowl as to cut a bodice. But it does not strike the average Englishwoman in this way, for she will spend hours in thinking and talking about dressmaking, which is generally as ill done as her cooking, while she will be reluctant to give 10 minutes to the consideration as to how a luncheon or supper dish shall be prepared. The English middle classes are most culpably negligent about the food they eat, and as a consequence, they get exactly the sort of cooks they deserve to get. I do not blame the cooks. If they can get paid for cooking ill, why should they trouble to learn to cook well? I agree entirely, said Mrs. Wilding. That saying, what I like is good plain roast and boiled, and none of your foreign kickshaws, is, as everyone knows, the stock utterance of John Bull on the stage or in the novel. And though John Bull is not in the least like his fictitious presentment, this form of words is largely responsible for the waste and want of variety in the English kitchen. The plain roast and boiled means a joint every day, and this arrangement the good plain cook finds an admirable one for several reasons. It means little trouble, and it means also lots of scraps and bones and waste pieces. The good plain cook brings all the forces of obstruction to bear whenever the mistress suggests made dishes, and, should this suggestion ever be carried out, she takes care that the achievement shall be of a character not likely to invite repetition. Not long ago, a friend of mine was questioning a cook as to soups, whereupon the cook answered that she had never been required to make such things where she had lived. All soups were bought in tins or bottles and had simply to be warmed up. Cakes, too, were outside her repertoire, having always been had in from the confectioners, while entries were in her opinion, and in the opinion of her various mistresses, unhealthy and not worth making. My experience is that, if a mistress takes an interest in cooking, she will generally have a fairly efficient cook, said Mrs. Fothergill. I agree with Mrs. Sinclair that our English cooks are spoilt by neglect, and I think it is hard upon them, as a class, that so many inefficient women should be able to pose as cooks while they are unable to boil a potato properly. And the so-called schools of cookery are quite useless in what they teach, said Miss MacDonald. I once sent a cook of mine to one to learn how to make a clear soup, and when she came back, she sent up, as an evidence of her progress, a potato pie colored pink and green, a most poisonous-looking dish, and her clear soups were as bad as ever. Said the colonel, I will beg leave to enter a protest against the imperfections of that repast, which is supposed to be the peculiar delight of the ladies. I allude to afternoon tea. I want to know why it is that unless I happen to call just when the tea is brought up, I grant. I know of a few houses which are honorable exceptions. I am fated to drink that most abominable of all decoctions, stewed lukewarm tea. Will you have some tea? I'm afraid it isn't quite fresh, the hostess will remark without a blush. What would she think if her husband at dinner were to say, "Colonel, take a glass of that champagne. It was open the day before yesterday, and I dare say the fizz has gone off a little." Tea is cheap enough, and yet the hostess seldom or never thinks of ordering up a fresh pot. I believe it is because she is afraid of the butler. "I sympathize with you fully, Colonel," said Lady Considine, "and my withers are unwrung. You do not often honor me with your presence on Tuesdays, but I am sure I may claim to be one of your honorable exceptions." "Indeed you may," said the Colonel. "Perhaps men ought not to intrude on these occasions, but I have a preference for taking tea in a pretty drawing-room, with a lot of agreeable women, rather than in a club surrounded by old chaps growling over the latest job at the War Office, and a younger brigade chattering about the latest tape prices and the weights for the spring handicaps. All these little imperfections go to prove that we are not a nation of cooks," said Van der Rohe. "We can't be everything. Heine once said that the Romans would never have found time to conquer the world if they had been obliged to learn the Latin grammar, and it is the same with us. We can't expect to found an empire all over the planet and cook as well as the French, who perhaps wisely never willingly emerge from the four corners of their own land. There is energy enough left in us when we set about some purely utilitarian task," said Mrs. Welding, "but we never throw ourselves into the arts with the enthusiasm of the Latin races. I was reading the other day of a French costumer who rushed to inform a lady, who had ordered a turban, of his success, exclaiming, 'Madame, après trots nuns d'insomnie les plumes vent places.' And every one knows the story of Vadel's suicide because the fish failed to arrive. No Englishman would be capable of flights like these." "Really, this indictment of English cookery makes me a little nervous," said Lady Considine. "I have promised to join in a driving tour through the southern counties. I shudder to think of the dinners I shall have to eat at the commercial hotels and posting houses on our route. English country inns are not what they ought to be, but now and then you come across one which is very good indeed, as good, if not better, than anything you could find in any other country. But I fear I must admit that, charges considered, the balance is against us," said Sir John. "When you start you ought to secure Sir John's services as courier, Lady Considine," said the Marchesa. "I once had the pleasure of driving for a week through the Apennines in a party under his guidance, and I can assure you we found him quite honest and obliging." "Ah, Marchesa, I was thinking of that happy time this very morning," said Sir John. "Of Arezzo, where we were kept for 3 days by rain, which I believe is falling there still. Of Cortona, with that wonderful little restaurant on the edge of the cliff, whence you see Thrasymene lying like a silver mirror in the plain below. Of Perugia the August, of Gubbio, Città di Castello, Borgo San Sepolcro, Urbino, and divers others. If you go for a drive in Italy, you still may meet with humors of the road, such as travelers of old were wont to enjoy. I well remember on the road between Perugia and Gubbio, we began to realize we were indeed traversing mountain paths. On a sudden the driver got down, waved his arms, and howled to some peasants working in a field below. These, on their part, responded with more arm-waving and howling, directed apparently towards a village farther up the hill, whereupon we were assailed with visions of brigands and amputated ears and ransom. But at a turn of the road we came upon 2 magnificent white oxen which, being harnessed on in front, drew us, and our carriages and horses as well, up 5 miles of steep incline. These beautiful fellows, it seemed, were what the driver was signaling for, and not for brigands. Again, every inn we stayed at supplied us with some representative touch of local life and habit. Here the whole personnel of the inn, reinforced by a goodly contingent of the townsfolk, would accompany us even into our bedrooms and display the keenest interest in the unpacking of our luggage. There the cook would come and take personal instructions as to the coming meal, throwing out suggestions the while as to the merits of this or that particular dish. And in one place, the ancient chambermaid insisted that one of the ladies, who had got a slight cold, should have the preat put into her bed for a short time to warm it. You need not look shocked, Colonel. The preat in question was merely a wooden frame, in the midst of which hangs a scaldino filled with burning ashes, a most comforting ecclesiastic, I can assure you. All the inns we visited had certain characteristics in common. The entrance is always dirty, and the staircase too, the dining rooms fairly comfortable, the bedrooms always clean and good, and the food much better than you would expect to find in such out-of-the-way places. Indeed, I cannot think of any in where it was not good and wholesome, while often it was delicious. In short, Lady Considine, I strongly advise you to take a drive in Italy next spring, and if I am free I shall be delighted to act as courier. Sir John has forgotten one or two touches I must fill in, said the Marchesa. It was often difficult to arrange a stopping place for lunch, so we always stocked our basket before starting. After the first day's experience, we decided that it was vastly more pleasant to take our meal while going uphill at a foot pace than in the swing and jolt of a descent, so the route and the pace of the horses had to be regulated in order to give us a good hour's ascent about noon. Fortunately, hills are plentiful in this part of Italy, and in the keen air we generally made an end of the vast store of provisions we laid in, and the generous fiasco was always empty a little too soon. Our drive came to an end at Fano, whither we had gone on account of a strange, romantic desire of Sir John to look upon an angel which Browning had named in one of his poems. Ah, how vividly I can recall our pursuit of that picture. It was a wet, melancholy day. The people of Fano were careless of the fame of their angel, for no one knew the church which it graced. At last we came upon it by the merest chance, and Sir John led the procession up to the shrine, where we all stood for a time in positions of mock admiration. Sir John tried hard to keep up the imposition, but something, either his innate honesty or the chilling environment of disapproval of Guercino's handiwork, was too much for him. He did his best to admire, but the task was beyond his powers, and he raised no protest when some scoffer affirmed that, though Browning might be a great poet, he was a mighty poor judge of painting, when he gave in his beautiful poem immortality to this tawdry theatrical canvas. "I think," said Sir John, "we had better go back to the hotel and order lunch. It would have been wiser to have ordered it before we left." We were all so much touched by his penitence that no one had the heart to remind him how a proposition as to lunch had been made by our leading Philistine as soon as we arrived. A proposition waved aside by Sir John as inadmissible until the guardian angel should have been seen and admired. "I plead guilty," said Sir John. "I think this experience gave a death blow to my career as an appreciator. Anyhow, I quite forget what the angel was like, and for reminiscences of Fano have to fall back upon the excellent colazione we ate in the externally unattractive but internally admirable Albergo del Moro. Menu lunch: Istacchi all'italiana, lobster all'italiana filetto di bue alla napoletana, fillet of beef with Neapolitan sauce, risotto alla spagnuola, savory rice. Menu dinner: zuppa alla romana, soup with quenelles, salmon alla genovese, salmon alla genovese, costolette in agrodolce, mutton cutlets with Roman sauce, flano di spinaci, spinach in a mold, capon con rive, capon with rice, croccante di mandorle, almond sweet, ostrich alla napoletana, oyster savory. The 9th day. Since I have been associated with the production of a dinner, I have had my eyes opened as to the complicated nature of the task, and the numerous strings which have to be pulled in order to ensure success, said the Colonel. But, seeing that a dinner party with well-chosen sympathetic guests and distinguished dishes represents one of the consummate triumphs of civilization, there is no reason to wonder. To achieve a triumph of any sort demands an effort. "Effort," said Miss Macdonald. "Yes, effort is the word I associate with so many middle-class English dinners. It is an effort to the hosts, who regard the whole business as a mere paying off of debts, and an effort to the guests, who, as they go to dress, recall grisly memories of former similar experiences. It often astonishes me that dinner-giving of this character should still flourish." "The explanation is easy," said Van der Rohe. "It flourishes because it gives a mark of distinction. It is a delicious moment for Mrs. Johnson when she is able to say to Mrs. Thompson, 'My dear, I am quite worn out. We dined out every day last week and have 4 more dinners in the next 5 days.' These good people show their British grit by the persistency with which they go on with their penitential hospitality, and their lack of ideas in never attempting to modify it so as to make it a pleasure instead of a disagreeable duty. It won't do to generalize too widely, Van der Rohe, said Sir John. Some of these good people surely enjoy their party giving, and from my own experience of 1 or 2 houses of this sort, I can assure you the food is quite respectable. The great imperfection seems to lie in the utter want of consideration in the choice of guests. A certain number of people and a certain quantity of food shot into a room, that is their notion of a dinner party. Of course, we understand that the success of a dinner depends much more on the character of the guests than on the character of the food, said Mrs. Sinclair. And most of us, I take it, are able to fill our tables with pleasant friends. But what of the dull people who know none but dull people? What gain will they get by taking counsel how they shall fill their tables? More, perhaps, than you think, dear Mrs. Sinclair, said Sir John. Dull people often enjoy themselves immensely when they meet dull people only. The frost comes when the host unwisely mixes in one or two guests of another sort people who give themselves airs of finding more pleasure in reading Stevenson than the sixpenny magazines, and who don't know where Hurlingham is. Then the sheep begin to segregate themselves from the goats, and the feast is mank. Considering what a trouble and anxiety a dinner party must be to the hostess, even under the most favoring conditions, I am always at a loss to discover why so many women take so much pains and spend a considerable sum of money as well over details which are unessential, or even noxious, said Mrs. Wilding. A few flowers on the table are all very well. One bowl in the center is enough, but in many houses the cost of the flowers equals, if it does not outrun, the cost of all the rest of the entertainment. A few roses or chrysanthemums are perfect as accessories, but to load a table with flowers of heavy or pungent scent is an outrage. Lilies of the valley are lovely in proper surroundings, but on a dinner table they are anathema. And then the mass of paper monstrosities which crowd every corner. Swans, nautilus shells, and even wild boars are used to hold up the menu. Once my menu was printed on a satin flag, and during the war the universal khaki invaded the dinner table. Ices are served in frilled baskets of paper, which have a tendency to dissolve and amalgamate with the sweet. The only paper on the table should be the menu, writ plain on a handsome card. No one can complain of papery ices here, said the Marchesa. Ices may be innocuous, but I don't favor them, and no one seems to have felt the want of them. At least, to adopt the phrase of the London shopkeeper, I have had no complaints. And even the ice, the very emblem of purity, has not escaped the touch of the dinner table decorator. Only a few days ago I helped myself with my fingers to what looked like a lovely peach, and let it flop down into the lap of a bishop who was sitting next to me. This was the hostess's pretty taste in ices. They are generally made in the shape of camellias this season, said Vander Rote. I knew a man who took one and stuck it in his buttonhole. I must say I enjoy an ice at dinner, said Lady Considine. I know the doctors abuse them, but I notice they always eat them when they get the chance. Ah, that is merely human inconsistency, said Sir John. I am inclined to agree with the Marchesa that ice at dinner is an incongruity and may well be dispensed with. I think I am correct, Marchesa, in assuming that Italy, which has showered so many boons upon us, gave us also the taste for ices. I fear I must agree, said the Marchesa. I now feel what a blessing it would have been for you English if you had learnt from us instead the art of cooking the admirable vegetables your gardens produce. How is it that English cookery has never found any better treatment for vegetables than to boil them quite plain? French beans so treated are tender, and of a pleasant texture on the palate, but I have never been able to find any taste in them. They are tasteless largely because the cook persists in shredding them into minute bits, and I maintain that they ought to be cooked whole certainly when they are young and sautés, a perfectly plain and easy process, which is hard to beat. Plain boiled cauliflower is doubtless good, but cooked à la crema it is far better. Indeed, it is one of the best vegetable dishes I know. But perhaps the greatest discovery in cookery we Italians ever made was the combination of vegetables and cheese. There are a dozen excellent methods of cooking cauliflower with cheese, and one of these has come to you through France, choux-fleurs au gratin, and has become popular. Jerusalem artichokes treated in the same fashion are excellent, and the cucumber, nearly always eaten raw in England, holds a first place as a vegetable for cooking. I seem to remember that everyone was loud in its praises when we tasted it as an adjunct to manzo alla Sardicina. Why is it that celery is for the most part only eaten raw with cheese? We have numberless methods of cooking it in Italy, and beetroot and lettuce as well. There is no spinach so good as English, and nowhere is it so badly cooked. It is always coarse and gritty because so little trouble is taken with it, and I can assure you that the smooth, delicate dish which we call flano di spinaci is not produced merely by boiling and chopping it, and turning it out into a dish. Part 2 Recipes. Sauces. As the three chief foundation sauces in cookery, espagnole or brown sauce, veloute or white sauce, and bechamel are alluded to so often in these pages, it will be well to give simple Italian recipes for them. Australian wines may be used in all recipes where wine is mentioned. Harvest Burgundy for red and Chasselas for Chablis. Number 1 Espagnole or brown sauce. The chief ingredient of this useful sauce is good stock, to which add any remnants and bones of fowl or game. Butter the bottom of a stewpan with at least 2 ounces of butter, and in it put slices of lean veal, ham, bacon, cuttings of beef, fowl or game trimmings, 3 peppercorns, mushroom trimmings, a tomato, a carrot, and a turnip cut up, an onion stuck with 2 cloves, a bay leaf, a sprig of thyme, parsley, and marjoram. Put the lid on the stewpan and braise well for 15 minutes, then stir in a tablespoonful of flour and pour in a 1/4 pint of good boiling stock and boil very gently for 15 minutes, then strain through a Tommy's, skim off all the grease, pour the sauce into an earthenware vessel, and let it get cold. If it is not rich enough, add a little Liebig or glaze. Pass through a sieve again before using. Number 2 Veloute sauce. The same as above, but use white stock, no beef, and only pheasant or fowl trimmings, button mushrooms, cream instead of glaze, and a chopped shallot. Number 3 Bechamel sauce. Ingredients: butter, ham, veal, carrots, shallot, celery, bay leaf, cloves, thyme, peppercorns, potato flour, cream, fowl stock. Prepare a mirepoix by mixing 2 ounces of butter, trimmings of lean veal and ham, a carrot, a shallot, a little celery, all cut into dice, a bay leaf, 2 cloves, 4 peppercorns, and a little thyme. Put this on a moderate fire so as not to let it color, and when all the moisture is absorbed, add a tablespoonful of potato flour. Mix well and gradually add equal quantities of cream and fowl stock and stir till it boils, then let it simmer gently. Stir occasionally, and if it gets too thick, add more cream and white stock. After 2 hours, pass it twice slowly through a Tommy's so as to get the sauce very smooth. Number 4 Mirepoix sauce for masking. Ingredients: bacon, onions, carrots, ham, a bunch of herbs, parsley, mushrooms, cloves, peppercorns, stock, Chablis. Put the following ingredients into a stewpan: some bits of bacon and lean ham, a carrot, all cut into dice, half an onion, a bunch of herbs, a few mushroom cuttings, 2 cloves, and 4 peppercorns. To this add 1 1/4 pint of good stock and a glass of Chablis. Boil rapidly for 10 minutes, then simmer till it is reduced to a third. Pass through a sieve and use for masking meat, fowl, fish, and sea. Number 5 Genoese sauce. Ingredients: onion, butter, burgundy, mushrooms, truffles, parsley, bay leaf, espagnole sauce, no one, blonde of veal, essence of fish, anchovy butter, crayfish, or lobster butter. Cut up a small onion and fry it in butter. Add a glass of burgundy, some cuttings of mushrooms and truffles, a pinch of chopped parsley, and half a bay leaf. Reduce half. In another saucepan, put 2 cups of espagnole sauce, 1 cup of veal stock, and a tablespoonful of essence of fish. Reduce 1/3 and add it to the other saucepan. Skim off all the grease, boil for a few minutes, and pass through a sieve. Then stir it over the fire and add half a teaspoonful of crayfish and half of anchovy butter. Number 6 Italian sauce. Ingredients: Chablis, mushrooms, leeks, a bunch of herbs, peppercorns, espagnole sauce, game gravy or stock, lemon. Put into a stewpan 2 glasses of Chablis, 2 tablespoonsful of mushroom trimmings, a leek cut up, a bunch of herbs, 5 peppercorns, and boil till it is reduced to half. In another stewpan, mix 2 glasses of espagnole, number 1, or veloute sauce, no 2, and half a glass of game gravy. Boil for a few minutes, then blend the contents of the 2 stewpans, pass through a sieve, and add the juice of a lemon. Number 7 Ham sauce, salsa di prosciutto. Ingredients: ham, musca or sweet port, vinegar, basil, spice. Cut up an ounce of ham and pound it in a mortar, then mix it with 3 dessert spoonsful of port or musca and a teaspoonful of vinegar, a little dried basil, and a pinch of spice. Boil it up, and then pass it through a sieve and warm it up in a bain-marie serve with roast meats. If you cannot get a sweet wine, add half a teaspoonful of sugar. Australian muscat is a good wine to use. Number 8 Tarragon sauce. Ingredients: tarragon, stock, butter, flour. To half a pint of good stock, add 2 good sprays of fresh tarragon. Simmer for 1/4 of an hour in a stewpan and keep the lid on. In another stewpan, melt 1 ounce of butter and mix it with 3 dessert spoonsful of flour. Then gradually pour the stock from the first stewpan over it, but take out the tarragon, mix well. Add a teaspoonful of finely chopped tarragon and boil for 2 minutes. Number 9. Tomato sauce. Ingredients: tomatoes, ham, onions, basil, salt, oil, garlic, spices. Broil 3 tomatoes, skin them and mix them with a tablespoonful of chopped ham, half an onion, salt, a dessert spoonful of oil, a little pounded spice and basil. Then boil and pass through a sieve. Whilst the sauce is boiling, put in a clove of garlic with a cut, but remove it before you pass the sauce through the sieve. Number 10. Tomato sauce piquante. Ingredients: ham, butter, onion, carrot, celery, bay leaf, thyme, cloves, peppercorns, vinegar, chablis, stock, tomatoes, veloute or espagnole sauce, castor sugar, lemon. Cut up an ounce of ham, half an onion, half a carrot, half a stick of celery very fine, and fry them in butter together with a bay leaf, a sprig of thyme, 1 clove and 4 peppercorns. Over this pour 1/3 of a cup of vinegar, and when the liquid is all absorbed, add half a glass of chablis and a cup of stock. Then add 6 tomatoes cut up and strained of all their liquid. Cook this in a covered stewpan and pass it through a sieve, but see that none of the bay leaf or thyme goes through. Mix this sauce with an equal quantity of veloute, number 2, or espagnole sauce. Number 1, let it boil and pass through a sieve again, and at the last add a teaspoonful of castor sugar, the juice of half a lemon, and an ounce of fresh butter. Another tomato sauce may be made like this, but use stock instead of vinegar and leave out the lemon juice and sugar. Number 11. Mushroom sauce. Ingredients: veloute sauce, essence of mushrooms, butter. Mix 2 dessert spoonsful of essence of mushrooms with a cupful of veloute sauce. Number 2. Reduce, keep on stirring, and just before serving add an ounce of butter. This sauce can be made with essence of truffle or game or shallot. Number 12. Neapolitan sauce. Ingredients: onions, ham, butter, marsala, blonde of veal, thyme, bay leaf, peppercorns, cloves, mushrooms, espagnole sauce. Number 1. Tomato sauce, game stock or essence. Fry an onion in butter with some bits of cut-up ham, then pour a glass of marsala over it, and another of blonde of veal, add a sprig of thyme, a bay leaf, 4 peppercorns, a clove, a tablespoonful of mushroom cuttings, and reduce half. In another saucepan, put 2 cups of espagnole sauce, 1 cupful of tomato sauce, and half a cup of game stock or essence. Reduce 1/3, and add the contents of the first saucepan, boil the sauce a few minutes, and pass it through a sieve. Warm it up in a bain-marie before using. Number 13. Neapolitan anchovy sauce. Ingredients: anchovies, fennel, flour, spices, parsley, marjoram, garlic, lemon juice, vinegar, cream. Wash 3 anchovies in vinegar. Bone and pound them in a mortar with a teaspoonful of chopped fennel and a pinch of cinnamon. Then mix in a teaspoonful of chopped parsley and marjoram, a squeeze of lemon juice, a teaspoonful of flour, half a gill of boiled cream, and the bones of the fish for which you will use this sauce. Pass through a sieve, add a clove of garlic with a cut in it, and boil. If the fish you are using is cooked in the oven, add a little of the liquor in which it has been cooked to the sauce. Take out the garlic before serving. Instead of anchovies, you may use caviar, pickled tunny, or any other pickled fish. Number 14. Roman sauce, salsa agrodolce. Ingredients: espagnole sauce, stock, burnt sugar, vinegar, raisins, pine nuts or almonds. Mix 2 spoonsful of burnt sugar with 1 of vinegar, and dilute with a little good stock. Then add 2 cups of espagnole sauce, number 1, a few stoned raisins, and a few pinocchi, pine nuts or shredded almonds. Keep this hot in a bain-marie and serve with cutlets, calf's head or feet or tongue. The pinocchi, which Italians use instead of almonds, can be bought in London when in season. Number 15. Roman sauce another way. Ingredients: espagnole sauce and onion, butter, flour, lemon, herbs, nutmeg, raisins, pine nuts or almonds, burnt sugar. Cut up a small bit of onion, fry it slightly in butter and a little flour, add the juice of a lemon and a little of the peel grated, a bouquet of herbs, a pinch of nutmeg, a few stoned raisins, shredded almonds or pinocchi, and a tablespoonful of burnt sugar. Add this to a good espagnole number 1 and warm it up in a bain-marie. Number 16. Supreme sauce. Ingredients: white sauce, fowl stock, butter. Put 3/4 of a pint of white sauce into a saucepan, and when it is nearly boiling, add half a cup of concentrated fowl stock. Reduce until the sauce is quite thick, and when about to serve, pass it through a Tommy's into a bain-marie and add 2 tablespoonfuls of cream. Number 17. Pasta marinade for masking Italian fries. Ingredients: semolina flour, eggs, salt, butter or olive oil, vinegar, water. Mix the following ingredients well together: 2 ounces of semolina flour, the yolks of 2 eggs, a little salt, and 2 ounces of melted butter. Add a glass of water so as to form a liquid substance. At the last, add the whites of 2 eggs beaten up to a snow. This will make a good paste for masking meat, fish, vegetables, or sweets, which are to be fried in the Italian manner. But if for meat or vegetables, add a few drops of vinegar or a little lemon juice. Number 18. White Villeroy. Ingredients: butter, flour, eggs, cream, nutmeg, white stock. Make a light-colored roux by frying 2 ounces of butter and 2 ounces of flour, stir in some white stock and keep it very smooth. Let it boil, and add the yolks of 3 eggs, mixed with 2 tablespoonfuls of cream and a pinch of nutmeg. Pass it through a sieve and use for masking cutlets, fish, and sea. Soups. Number 19. Clear soup. Ingredients: stock, meat, water, a bunch of herbs, thyme, parsley, chervil, bay leaf, basil, marjoram, 3 carrots, 3 turnips, 3 onions, 3 cloves stuck in the onions, 1 blade of mace. Cut up 3 pounds of stock meat small and put it in a stock pot with 2 quarts of cold water, 3 carrots and 3 turnips cut up, 3 onions with a clove stuck in each one, a bunch of herbs and a blade of mace. Let it come to the boil and then draw it off. At once skim off all the scum and keep it gently simmering, and occasionally add 2 or 3 tablespoonfuls of cold water. Let it simmer all day and then strain it through a fine cloth. Some of the liquor in which a calf's head has been cooked, or even a calf's foot, will greatly improve a clear soup. The stock should never be allowed to boil, as long as the meat and vegetables are in the stock pot. Number 20. Zuppa Primaveral Spring Soup. Ingredients: clear soup, vegetables. Any fresh spring vegetables will do for this soup, but they must all be cooked separately and put into the soup at the last minute. It is best made with fresh peas, asparagus tips, and a few strips of tarragon. Number 21. Soup alla Lombarda. Ingredients: clear soup, fowl forcemeat, bechamel number 3, peas, lobster butter, eggs, asparagus. Make a firm forcemeat of fowl and divide it into 3 parts. To the first, add 2 spoonfuls of cream bechamel, to the second 4 spoonfuls of puree of green peas, to the third 2 spoonfuls of lobster butter and the yolk of an egg. Thus you will have the Italian colors, red, white, and green. Butter a pie dish and make little quenelles of the forcemeat. Just before serving, boil them for 4 minutes in boiling stock. Take them out carefully and put them in a warm soup tureen with 2 spoonfuls of cooked green peas and pour a very fresh clear soup over them. Hand little croutons fried in lobster butter separately. Number 22. Tuscan Soup. Ingredients: stock, eggs. Whip up 3 or 4 eggs, gradually add good stock to them, and keep on whisking them up until they begin to curdle. Keep the soup hot in a bain-marie. Number 23. Venetian Soup. Ingredients: clear soup, butter, flour, Parmesan, eggs. Make a roux by frying 2 ounces of butter and 2 ounces of flour, add an ounce of grated cheese and half a cup of good stock. Mix up well so as to form a paste, and then take it off the fire and add the yolks of 4 eggs, mix again and form the paste into little quenelles. Boil these in a little soup, strain off, put them into the tureen, and pour a good clear soup over them. Number 24. Roman Soup. Ingredients: stock, butter, eggs, salt, crumb of bread, parsley, nutmeg, flour, Parmesan. Mix 3½ ounces of butter with 2 eggs and 4 ounces of crumbs of bread soaked in stock, a little chopped parsley, salt, and a pinch of nutmeg. Reduce this and add 2 tablespoonfuls of flour and 1 of grated Parmesan. Form this into little quenelles and boil them in stock for a few minutes. Put them into a tureen and pour a good clear soup over them. Number 25. Soup alla Nazionale. Ingredients: clear soup, savory custard. Make a savory custard and divide it into 3 parts, one to be left white, another colored red with tomato, and the third green with spinach. Put a layer of each in a buttered saucepan and cook for about 10 minutes. Cut it into dice so that you have the 3 Italian colors, red, white, and green together. Then put the custard into a soup tureen and pour a good clear soup over it. Number 26. Soup alla Modenese. Ingredients: stock, spinach, butter, salt, eggs, parmesan, nutmeg, croutons. Wash 1 pound of spinach in 5 or 6 waters, then chop it very fine and mix it with 3 ounces of butter, salt it and warm it up. Then let it get cold, pass through a hair sieve, and add 2 eggs, a tablespoonful of grated parmesan and very little nutmeg. Add this to some boiling stock in a copper saucepan, put on the lid, and on the top put some hot coals so that the eggs may curdle and help to thicken the soup. Serve with fried croutons. Number 27. Crotopo soup. Ingredients: clear soup, veal, ham, eggs, salt, pepper, nutmeg, rolls. Pound half a pound of lean veal in a mortar, then add 3 ounces of cooked ham with some fat in it, the yolk of an egg, salt, pepper, and very little nutmeg. Pass through a sieve, cut some small French rolls into slices, spread them with the above mixture, and color them in the oven. Then cut them in halves or quarters, put them into a tureen, and just before serving pour a very good clear soup over them. Number 28. Soup à l'impératrice. Ingredients: breast of fowl, eggs, salt, pepper, ground rice, nutmeg, clear stock. Pound the breast of a fowl in a mortar, and add to it a teaspoonful of ground rice, the yolk of an egg, salt, pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg. Pass this through a sieve, form canals with it, and pour a good clear soup over them. Number 29. Neapolitan soup. Ingredients: fowl, potato flour, eggs, bechamel sauce, peas, asparagus, spinach, clear soup. Mix a 1/4 pound of forcemeat of fowl with a tablespoonful of potato flour, a tablespoonful of bechamel sauce, number 3, and the yolk of an egg. Put this into a tube about the size round of an ordinary macaroni. 20 minutes before serving, squirt the forcemeat into a saucepan with boiling stock, and nip off the forcemeat as it comes through the pipe into pieces about 1.5 inches long. Let it simmer, and add boiled peas and asparagus tips. If you like to have the fowl macaroni white and green, you can color half the forcemeat with a spoonful of spinach coloring. Serve in a good clear soup. Number 30. Soup with risotto. Ingredients: risotto number 189, eggs, breadcrumbs, clear or brown soup. If you have some good risotto left, you can use it up by making it into little balls the size of small nuts. Egg and bread, crumb, and fry them in butter. Dry them and put them into a soup tureen with hot soup. The soup may be either clear or brown. Number 31. Soup à la Genovese. Ingredients: white stock, butter, onions, carrot, celery, tomato, cauliflower, fat bacon, parsley, sage, parmesan, salt, pepper. Chop up half an onion, half a carrot, half a stick of celery, a small bit of fat bacon, and fry them in 2 ounces of butter. Then cover them with good white stock, boil for a few minutes, pass through a sieve, and add 2 tablespoonsful of tomato puree. Then blanch half a cauliflower in salted water. Let it get cold, drain all the water out of it, and break it up into little bunches and put them into a stock pot with the stock, a small leaf of dried sage, crumbled up, and a little chopped parsley, and let it all boil. Add a pinch of grated cheese and some pepper. Serve with grated parmesan handed separately. Number 32. Soup à la Maria Pia. Ingredients: white stock, eggs, butter, peas, white beans, carrot, onion, leeks, celery, cream, croutons. Soak 1 pound of white beans for 12 hours. Then put them into a stock pot with a little salt, butter, and water. Add a carrot, an onion, 2 leeks, and a stick of celery, and simmer until the vegetables are well cooked. Then take out all the fresh vegetables, drain the beans, and pass them through a sieve, but first dilute them with good stock. Put this puree into a stock pot with good white stock, and when it has boiled, keep it hot in a bain-marie until you are about to serve. Then mix the yolk of 3 eggs in a cup of cream, and add this to the soup. Pour the soup into a warm tureen, add some boiled green peas, and serve with fried croutons handed separately. Number 33. Zuppa di herb lettuce soup. Ingredients: stock, sorrel, endive, lettuce, chervil, celery, carrot, onion, French roll, Parmesan cheese. Boil the following vegetables and herbs in very good stock for an hour: 2 small bunches of sorrel, a bunch of endive, a lettuce, a small bunch of chervil, a stick of celery, a carrot, and an onion, all well washed and cut up. Then put some slices of toasted French roll into a tureen and pour the above soup over them. Serve with grated Parmesan handed separately. Number 34. Zuppa Regina di Riso, Queen's soup. Ingredients: fowl stock, ground rice, milk, butter. Put a tablespoonful of ground rice into a saucepan and gradually add half a pint of milk. Boil it gently for 12 minutes in a bain-marie, but stir the whole time so as to get it very smooth. Just before serving, add an ounce of butter, pass it through a sieve, and mix it with good fowl stock. Minster. Minestra is a thick broth, very much like hotchpotch, only thicker. In Italy, it is often served at the beginning of dinner instead of soup. It also makes an excellent lunch dish. 2 or 3 tablespoonsful of No. 35 will be found a great improvement to any of these Minster. Number 35, a condiment for seasoning Minster and C. Ingredients: onions, celery, carrots, butter, salt, stock, tomatoes, mushrooms. Cut up an onion, a stick of celery, and a carrot. Fry them in butter and salt. Add a few bits of cooked ham and veal cut up, 2 mushrooms, and the pulp of a tomato. Cook for a quarter of an hour and add a little stock occasionally to keep it moist. Pass through a sieve and use for seasoning Minster, macaroni, rice, and see it should be added when the dish is nearly cooked. Number 36, Minestra alla casalinga. Ingredients: rice, butter, stock, vegetables. All sorts of vegetables will serve for this dish. Blanch them in boiling salted water, then drain and fry them in butter. Add plenty of good stock and put them on a slow fire. Boil 4 ounces of rice in stock, and when it is well done, add the stock with the vegetables. Season with 2 or 3 spoonsful of number 35 and serve with grated cheese handed separately. Number 37, Minestra of rice and turnips. Ingredients: rice, turnips, butter, gravy, tomatoes. Cut 3 or 4 young turnips into slices and put them on a dish, strew a little salt over them, cover them with another dish, and let them stand for about 2 hours until the water has run out of them. Then drain the slices, put them in a frying pan and fry them slightly in butter. Add some good gravy and mashed up tomatoes, and after having cooked this for a few minutes, pour it into good boiling stock. Add 3 ounces of well-washed rice and boil for half an hour. Minestra loses its flavor if it is boiled too long. In Lombardy, however, rice, macaroni, and C are rarely boiled enough for English tastes. Number 38, Minestra alla Capucina. Ingredients: rice, anchovies, butter, stock, and onions. Scale an anchovy, pound it, and fry it in butter together with a small onion cut across and 4 ounces of boiled rice. Add a little salt, and when the rice is a golden brown, take out the onion and gradually add some good stock until the dish is of the consistency of rice pudding. Number 39, Minestra of semolina. Ingredients: stock, semolina, parmesan. Put as much stock as you require into a saucepan, and when it begins to boil, add semolina very gradually and stir to keep it from getting lumpy. Cook it until the semolina is soft, and serve with grated parmesan handed separately. To 1 quart of soup, use 3 ounces of semolina. Number 40, Minestrone alla Milanese. Ingredients: rice or macaroni, ham, bacon, stock, all sorts of vegetables. Minestrone is a favorite dish in Lombardy when vegetables are plentiful. Boil all sorts of vegetables in stock and add bits of bacon, ham, onions braised in butter, chopped parsley, a clove of garlic with 2 cuts, and rice or macaroni. Put in those vegetables first, which require most cooking, and do not make the broth too thin. Leave the garlic in for a quarter of an hour only. Number 41, Minestra of rice and cabbage. Ingredients: rice, cabbage, stock, ham, tomato sauce. Cut off the stalk and all the hard outside leaves of a cabbage. Wash it and cut it up, but not too small, then drain and cook it in good stock and add 2 ounces of boiled rice. This Minster is improved by adding a little chopped ham and a few spoonsful of tomato sauce. Number 42, Minestra of rice and celery. Ingredients: celery, rice, stock. Cut up a head of celery and remove all the green parts. Then boil it in good stock and add 2 ounces of rice and boil till it is well cooked. Fish. Number 43, Anguilla alla Milanese eels. Ingredients: eels, butter, flour, stock, bay leaves, salt, pepper, chablis, a macedoine of vegetables. Cut up a big eel and fry it in 2 ounces of butter, and when it is a good color, add a tablespoonful of flour, about half a pint of stock, a glass of chablis, a bay leaf, pepper, and salt, and boil till it is well cooked. In the meantime, boil separately all sorts of vegetables, such as carrots, cauliflower, celery, beans, tomatoes, and take out the pieces of eel, but keep them hot. whilst you pass the liquor which forms the sauce through a sieve and add the vegetables to this. Let them boil a little longer and arrange them in a dish. Place the pieces of eel on them and cover with the sauce. It is most important that the eels should be served very hot. Any sort of fish will do as well for this dish. Number 44. Filetti di pesce alla Villeroy, fillets of fish. Ingredients: fish, flour, butter, Villeroy. Any sort of fish will do: turbot, sole, trout, and sea. Cut it into fillets, flour them over and cook them in butter in a covered stewpan. Then make a Villeroy, number 18. Dip the fillets into it and fry them in clarified butter. Number 45. Estaccia all'italiana, lobster. Ingredients: lobsters, veloute sauce, marsala, butter, forcemeat of fish, olives, anchovy butter, button mushrooms, truffles, lemon, crayfish, Italian sauce. 2 boiled lobsters are necessary. Cut all the flesh of one of the lobsters into fillets and put them into a saucepan with half a cup of veloute sauce, number 2, and half a glass of marsala, and boil for a few minutes. Put a crouton of fried bread on an oval dish and cover it with a forcemeat of fish, and on this place the whole lobster. Cover it with buttered paper and put it in a moderate oven just long enough to cook the forcemeat. Then make some quenelles of anchovy butter, olives, and button mushrooms. Mix them with Italian sauce, number 6, and garnish the dish with them, and round the crouton arrange the fillets of lobster with a garnish of slices of truffle. Add a dessert spoonful of crayfish butter and a good squeeze of lemon juice to the sauce, and serve. Number 46. Bacala alla giardiniera, cod. Ingredients: cod or hake, carrots, turnips, butter, herbs. Boil a piece of cod or hake and break it up into flakes, then cut up 2 carrots and a turnip, boil them gently, and when they are half-boiled drain and put them into a stewpan with an ounce of butter, half a teacup of boiling water, salt, and herbs. When they are well cooked, add the fish and serve. Fillets of lemon soles may also be cooked this way. Number 47. Trigli alla marinara, mullet. Ingredients: mullet, salt, pepper, onions, parsley, oil, water. Cut a mullet into pieces and put it into a stewpan, with the lid on, with salt, pepper, a cut-up onion, some chopped parsley, half a wineglass of the finest olive oil and half a pint of water, and in this cook the fish gently. Arrange the fillets on a dish, pour a little of the broth over them, and add the onion and parsley. Instead of mullet, you can use cod, hake, whiting, lemon sole, and sea. Number 48. Mullet alla Tolosa. Ingredients: mullet, butter, salt, onions, parsley, almonds, anchovies, button mushrooms, tomatoes. Cut off the fins and gills of a mullet, put it in a fireproof dish with 2 ounces of butter and salt. Cut up a small bit of onion, a sprig of parsley, a few blanched almonds, 1 anchovy, and a few button mushrooms, previously softened in hot water, and put them over the fish and bake for 20 minutes. Then add 2 tablespoonfuls of tomato sauce or puree, and when cooked, serve. If you like, use sole instead of mullet. Number 49. Mullet alla Triestina. Ingredients: mullet or sole or turbot, butter, salt, half a lemon, chablis. Put the fish in a fireproof dish with 1½ ounces of butter, salt, a squeeze of lemon juice, and half a glass of chablis. Put it on a very slow fire and turn the fish when necessary. When it is cooked, serve in the dish. Number 50. Whiting alla Genovese. Ingredients: whiting, butter, pepper, salt, bay leaf claret, parsley, onions, garlic, capers, vinegar, espagnole sauce, mushrooms, anchovies. Put 1 or 2 whiting into a stewpan with 2 ounces of butter, salt, pepper, 2 bay leaves, and a glass of claret or burgundy. Cook on a hot fire and turn the fish when necessary. Have ready beforehand a remoulade sauce made in the following manner. Put in a saucepan 1 ounces of butter, half a teaspoonful of chopped parsley, half an onion, a clove of garlic, with 1 cut, 4 capers, 1 anchovy, all chopped up except the garlic. Then add 3 tablespoonfuls of vinegar and reduce the sauce. Add 2 glasses of espagnole sauce, number 1, and a little good stock. Boil it all up, take out the garlic and bay leaves, and pass through a sieve, then pour it over the whiting. Boil it all again for a few minutes, and before serving, garnish with a few button mushrooms cooked separately. The remoulade sauce will be much better if made some hours beforehand. Number 51. Merluzzo in Bianco, cod. Ingredients: cod or whiting, salt, onions, parsley, cloves, turnips, marjoram, chervil, milk. Boil gently in a big cupful of salted water 2 onions, 1 turnip, a pinch of chopped parsley, chervil and marjoram, and 4 cloves. After half an hour, pass this through a sieve, but first take out the cloves, and add an equal quantity of milk and a little cream, and in this cook the fish and serve with the sauce over it. Number 52. Merluzzo in Salamoya cod. Ingredients: cod, hake, whiting or red mullet, onions, parsley, mint, marjoram, turnips, mushrooms, chervil, cloves, salt, milk, cream, eggs. Put a saltspoonful of salt, 2 onions, a little parsley, marjoram, mint, chervil, a turnip, a mushroom, and the heads of 2 cloves into a stewpan and simmer in a cupful of milk for half an hour. Then let all the ingredients settle at the bottom, and pass the broth through a hair sieve, and add to it an equal quantity of milk or cream, and in it cook your fish on a slow fire. When the fish is quite cooked, pour off the sauce, but leave a little on the fish to keep it warm. Reduce the rest in a bain-marie. Stir all the time so that the milk may not curdle. Thicken the sauce with the yolk of an egg, and when about to serve, pour it over the fish. Number 53. Bacala in estofado haddock. Ingredients: haddock or lemon sole, carrots, anchovies, lemon, pepper, butter, onions, flour, white wine, stock. Stuff a haddock or filleted lemon sole with some slices of carrot which have been masked with a paste made of pounded anchovies, very little chopped lemon peel, salt, and pepper. Then fry an onion with 2 cuts across it in butter. Take out the onion as soon as it has become a golden color. Flour the fish and put it in the butter, and when it has been well fried on both sides, pour a glass of marsala over it. And when it is all absorbed, add a cup of fowl or veal stock and let it simmer for half an hour. Then skim and reduce the sauce, pour it over the fish and serve. Number 54. Nacelle con piselli whiting. Ingredients: whiting, onions, parsley, peas, tomatoes, butter, parmesan, bechamel sauce. Cut a big whiting into 2 or 3 pieces and fry them slightly in butter. Add a small bit of onion, a teaspoonful of chopped parsley, and fry for a few minutes more. Then add some peas which have been cooked in salted water, 3 tablespoonsful of bechamel sauce, number 3, and 3 of tomato puree, and cook all together on a moderate fire. Number 55. Ostrich alla Livornese oysters. Ingredients: oysters, parsley, shallot, anchovies, fennel pepper, breadcrumbs, cream, lemon. Detach the oysters from their shells and put them into china shells with their own liquor. Have ready a dessertspoonful of parsley, shallot, anchovy, and very little fennel. Add a tablespoonful of breadcrumbs and a little pepper, and mix the whole with a little cream. Put some of this mixture on each oyster, and then bake them in a moderate fire for a quarter of an hour. At the last minute, add a squeeze of lemon juice to each oyster and serve on a folded napkin. Number 56. Ostrich alla Napolitana oysters. Ingredients: oysters, parsley, celery, thyme, pepper, garlic, oil, lemon. Prepare the oysters as above, but rub each shell with a little garlic. Put on each oyster a mixture made of chopped parsley, a little thyme, pepper, and breadcrumbs. Then pour a few drops of oil on each shell, put them on the gridiron on an open fire, grill for a few minutes, and add a little lemon juice before serving. Number 57. Ostrich alla Veneziana oysters. Ingredients: oysters, butter, shallots, truffles, lemon juice, forcemeat of fish. Take several oysters out of their shells and cook them in butter, a little chopped shallot, and their own liquor. Add a little lemon juice, and then put in each of the deeper shells a layer of forcemeat made of fish and chopped truffles, then an oyster or 2, and over this again another layer of the forcemeat. Cover up with the top shell and put them in a fish kettle and steam them. Then remove the top shell and arrange the shells with the oysters on a napkin and serve. Number 58. Pescae diversi alla casalinga, fish. Ingredients: any sort of fish, celery, parsley, carrots, garlic, onion, anchovies, almonds, capers, mushrooms, butter, salt, pepper, flour, tomatoes. Chop up a stick of celery, a sprig of parsley, a carrot, and onion. Pound up an anchovy in brine, well cleaned, boned, and scaled, 4 shredded almonds, 3 capers, and 2 mushrooms. Put all this into a saucepan with 1 ounce of butter, salt, and pepper, and fry for a few minutes. Then add a few spoonsful of hot water and a tablespoonful of flour and boil gently for 10 minutes. Put in the fish and cook it until it is done. If you like, you may add a little tomato sauce. Number 59. Pes alla Genovese sole or turbot. Ingredients: fish, sole, mullet, or turbot, butter, salt, onion, garlic, carrots, celery, parsley, nutmeg, pepper, spice, mushrooms, tomatoes, flour, anchovies. Fry an onion slightly in 1½ ounces of butter, add a small cut-up carrot, half a stick of celery, a sprig of parsley, and a salt anchovy, scaled, which will dissolve in the butter. Into this put the fish cut up in pieces, a pinch of spice and pepper, and let it simmer for a few minutes, then add 2 cut-up mushrooms, a tomato mashed up, and a little flour. Mix all together and cook for 20 minutes. Number 60. Sagliol and Zimino sole. Ingredients: sole, onion, beetroot, butter, celery, tomato sauce, or white wine. Cut up a small onion and fry it slightly in 1 ounce of butter, then add some slices of beetroot, well washed and drained, and a little celery cut up. To this add fillets of sole or haddock, salt, and pepper. Boil on a moderate on the fish kettle. When the beetroot is nearly cooked, add 2 tablespoonsful of tomato puree and boil till all is well cooked. Instead of the tomato, you may use half a glass of Chablis. Number 61. Sagliol al tegame sole. Ingredients: sole or mullet, butter, anchovies, parsley, garlic, capers, eggs. Put an ounce of butter and an anchovy in a saucepan together with a sole or mullet. Fry lightly for a few minutes, then strew a little pepper and chopped parsley over it, put in a clove of garlic with 1 cut, and cook for half an hour, but turn the fish over when one side is sufficiently done. A few minutes before taking it off the fire, add 3 capers and stir in the yolk of an egg at the last minute. Do not leave the garlic in more than 5 minutes. Number 62. Sagliol alla Livornese sole. Ingredients: sole, butter, garlic, pepper, salt, tomatoes, fennel. Fillet a sole and put it in a sauté pan with 1½ ounces of butter and a clove of garlic with 1 cut in it. Then sprinkle over it a little chopped fennel, salt, and pepper, and let it cook for a few minutes. Turn over the fillets when they are sufficiently cooked on one side. Take out the garlic and cover the fish with a puree of tomatoes at the last. Number 63. Sagliol alla Veneziana sole. Ingredients: sole, anchovies, butter, bacon, onion, stock, Chablis, salt, nutmeg, parsley, Spanish olives, 1 bay leaf. Fillet a sole and interlard each piece with a bit of anchovy. Tie up the fillets and put them in a sauté pan with 2 ounces of butter, a slice of bacon or ham, and a few small slices of onion. Cover half over with good stock and a glass of Chablis, and add salt, a pinch of nutmeg, a bunch of parsley, and a bay leaf. Cover with buttered paper and cook on a slow fire for about an hour. Drain the fish, pass the liquor through a sieve, reduce it to the consistency of a thick sauce, and pour it over the fish. Garnish each fillet with a Spanish olive stuffed with anchovy. Number 64. Sagliol alla Parmigiana sole. Ingredients: sole, Parmesan butter, cream, cayenne. Fillet a sole and wipe each piece with a clean cloth, then place them in a fireproof dish and put a small piece of butter on each fillet. Then make a good white sauce and mix it with 2 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan and half a gill of cream. Cover the fish well with the sauce and bake in a moderate oven for 20 minutes. Lemon soles may be used in any of the above-named dishes. Number 65. Salmon alla Genovese salmon. Ingredients: salmon, Genoese sauce number 5, butter, lemon. Boil a bit of salmon, drain it, take off the skin, and mask it with a Genoese sauce, to which add a spoonful of the water in which the salmon has been boiled, and at the last add a pat of fresh butter and a squeeze of lemon juice. Number 66. Salmon alla Perrigo salmon. Ingredients: salmon, forcemeat of fish, truffles, butter, Madeira croutons of bread, crayfish tails, anchovy butter. Cut a bit of salmon into well-shaped fillets, and marinate them in lemon juice and a bunch of herbs for 2 hours. Wipe them, put a layer of forcemeat of fish over each, and decorate them with slices of truffle. When put them into a well-buttered sauté pan with half a cup of stock and a glass of Madeira or Marsala, cover with buttered paper, and put them into a moderate oven for 20 minutes. Arrange the fillets in a circle on croutons of bread, garnish the center with crayfish tails and with truffles cut into dice, a quarter of a pint of veloute sauce, no, 2 and half a teaspoonful of anchovy butter. Glaze the fillets and serve. Number 67. Salmon alla Giardiniera salmon. Ingredients: salmon, forcemeat of fish, vegetables, butter, bechamel, and espagnole sauce. Prepare the fillets as above. Number 66, and put on each a layer of white forcemeat of fish. Cook a macédoine of vegetables separately and garnish each fillet with some of it, Then cook them in a covered stewpan. Put a crouton of bread in an entree dish and garnish it with cooked peas, mixed with bechamel sauce No. 3, stock, and butter. Around this place the fillets of fish, leaving the center with the peas uncovered. Pour some rich espagnole sauce No. 1 round the fillets and serve. Number 68. Salmon alla Farnese salmon. Ingredients: salmon, oil, lemon juice, thyme, salt, pepper, nutmeg, mayonnaise sauce, lobster butter, gelatine, veloute sauce, olives, anchovy butter, white truffles, mushrooms in oil, crayfish. Boil a piece of salmon, and when cold cut it into fillets and marinate them for 2 hours in oil, lemon juice, salt, thyme, pepper, and nutmeg. Then make a good mayonnaise and add to it some lobster butter mixed with a little dissolved gelatine and veloute sauce. Number 2. Wipe the fillets and arrange them in a circle on a dish, and pour the mayonnaise over them. Then decorate the border of the dish with aspic jelly, and in the center put some stoned Spanish olives stuffed with anchovy butter, truffles, mushrooms in oil, and crayfish tails. Number 69. Salmon alla Santa Fiorentina salmon. Ingredients: salmon, eggs, mayonnaise, parsley, flour. Marinate a piece of boiled salmon for an hour. Take out the bone and cut the fish into fillets. Wipe them, roll them in flour and dip them in eggs beaten up or in mayonnaise sauce, and fry them a good color. Arrange in a circle on the dish, garnish with fried parsley, and serve with Dutch or mayonnaise sauce. Any fillets of fish may be cooked in this manner. Number 70. Salmon alla Francesca salmon. Ingredients: salmon, butter, onions, parsley, salt, pepper, nutmeg stock, chablis, espagnole sauce, No. 1 mushrooms, anchovy butter, lemon. Put a firm piece of salmon in a stewpan with 1½ ounces of butter, an onion cut up, a teaspoonful of chopped parsley blanched, salt, pepper, very little nutmeg, a cup of stock, and a glass of chablis. Cook for half an hour over a hot fire, turn the salmon occasionally, and if it gets dry, add a cup of espagnole sauce. Let it boil until sufficiently cooked, and then put it on a dish. Into the sauce put 4 mushrooms cooked in white sauce, half a teaspoonful of anchovy butter, and a little lemon juice. Pour the sauce over the salmon and serve. Number 71. Fillets of salmon in papillote. Ingredients: salmon, oil, lemon juice, salt, pepper, nutmeg, herbs. Cut a piece of salmon into fillets, marinate them in oil, lemon juice, salt, pepper, nutmeg, and herbs for 2 hours. Wipe and put them into paper souffle cases with a little oil, butter, and herbs. Cook them on a gridiron and serve with a sauce piquante made in the following manner: half a pint of rich espagnole sauce, No. 1, and a dessert spoonful of New Century * sauce, warmed up in a bain-marie. Can be obtained at Messrs. Lazenby's, Wigmore Street, W. Beef, mutton, veal, lamb, and C. Number 72. Manzo alla Sardesana fillet of beef. Ingredients: fillet of beef or rump steak, bacon, olive oil, salt, nutmeg, anchovies, herbs, stock, garlic. Put a piece of very tender rump steak or fillet of beef into a stewpan with 2 slices of fat bacon and 3 teaspoonsful of the finest olive oil. Season with salt and a tiny pinch of nutmeg. Let it cook uncovered, and turn the meat over occasionally. When it is nicely browned, add an anchovy minced and mixed with chopped herbs, and a small clove of garlic with 1 cut across it. Then cover the whole with good stock, put the cover on the stewpan, and when it is all sufficiently cooked, skim the grease off the sauce, pass it through a sieve, and pour it over the beef. Leave the garlic in for 5 minutes only. Number 73. Stufato alla Florentina stewed beef. Ingredients: beef, mutton or veal, onions, rosemary, burgundy tomatoes, stock, potatoes, butter, garlic. Cut up an onion and 3 leaves of rosemary, fry them slightly in an ounce of butter. Then add meat, beef, mutton, or veal, cut into fair-sized pieces, salt it and fry it a little, then pour half a glass of burgundy over it, and add 2 tablespoonsful of tomato conserve, or better still, fresh tomatoes in a puree. Cover up the stewpan and cook gently, stir occasionally, and add some stock if the stew gets too dry. If you like to add potatoes, cut them up, put them in the stewpan an hour before serving, and cook them with the meat. A clove of garlic with 1 cut may be added for 5 minutes. Number 74. Cassia di manzo al forno rump steak. Ingredients: rump steak, ham, salt, pepper, spice, fat bacon, onion, stock, white wine. Lard a bit of good rump steak with bits of lean ham, and season it with salt, pepper, and a little spice. Slightly brown it in butter for a few minutes. Then cover it with 3 or 4 slices of fat bacon and put it into a stewpan with an onion chopped up, a cup of good stock, and half a glass of white wine. Cook with the cover on the stewpan for about an hour. You may add a clove of garlic for 10 minutes. Number 75. Palpatine alla salsa picante, beef olives. Ingredients: beef steak, butter, onions, stock, sausage meat. Cut some thin slices of beef steak, and on each place a little forcemeat of fowl or veal, to which add a little sausage meat. Roll up these slices of beef and cook them with butter and onions, and when they are well browned, pour some stock over them and let them absorb it. Serve with a tomato sauce, number 10, or sauce piquante, made with 1/4 of a pint of rich espagnole, number 1, and a dessert spoonful of New Century sauce. See number 71 note. Number 76. Stufato alla Milanese, stewed beef. Ingredients: rump steak, bacon, ham, salt, pepper, cinnamon, cloves, butter, onions, burgundy. Beat a piece of rump steak to make it tender and lard it well. Cut up some bits of fat bacon and dust them over with salt, pepper, and a tiny pinch of cinnamon, and put them on the steak. Stick 3 cloves into the steak, then put it into a stewpan, add a little of the fat of the beef chopped up, an ounce of butter, an onion cut up, and some bits of lean ham. Put in sufficient stock to cover the steak, add a glass of burgundy, and stew gently until it is cooked. Number 77. Manzo marinato arrosto, marinated beef. Ingredients: beef, salt, larding bacon, burgundy, vinegar, spices, herbs, flour. Beat a piece of rump steak or fillet to make it tender. Sprinkle it well with salt and some chopped herbs and leave it for an hour. Then lard it and marinate it as follows. Half a pint of red wine, Australian Harvest Burgundy is best. Half a glass of vinegar, a pinch of spice, and a bouquet of herbs. Leave it in this for 24 hours, then take it out. Drain it well, sprinkle it with flour, and roast it for 20 minutes before a clear fire. Braise it till quite tender, then press and glaze it. The thin end of a sirloin is excellent cooked this way. Serve cold. Number 78. Manzo con sugo di barbabietole, fillet of beef. Ingredients: beef, beetroot, salt. Cut up 3 raw beetroots, put them into an earthenware pot and cover them with water. Keep them in some warm place and allow them to ferment for 5, 6, or 8 days according to the season. The froth at the top of the water will indicate the necessary fermentation. Take out the pieces of beetroot, skim off all the froth, and into the fermented liquor put a good piece of tender rump steak or fillet with some salt. Braise for 4 hours and serve. Number 79. Manzo and insalata, marinated beef. Ingredients: beef, oil, salt, pepper, vinegar, parsley, capers, mushrooms, olives, vegetables. Cook a fillet of beef, or the thin end of a sirloin, which has been previously marinated for 2 days in oil, salt, pepper, vinegar, and chopped parsley. When cold, press and glaze it. Garnish it with capers, mushrooms preserved in vinegar, or gherkins, olives, and any kind of vegetables marinated like the beef. Serve cold. Number 80. Falto di buccan pistacchi, fillets of beef with pistachios. Ingredients: fillet of beef, oil, salt, flour, pistachio nuts, gravy. Cut a piece of tender beef into little fillets and put them in a stewpan with a tablespoonful of olive oil and salt. After they have cooked for a few minutes, powder them with flour and strew over each fillet some chopped pistachio nuts. Add a few spoonsful of very good boiling gravy and cook for another half hour. Number 81. Scallopini di riso, beef with risotto. Ingredients: rump steak, butter, rice, truffles, tongue, stock, mushrooms. Slightly stew a bit of rump steak with bits of tongue and mushrooms. Let it get cold and cut it into scallops. Butter a pie dish and garnish the bottom of it with cooked tongue and slices of cooked truffle. Then over this put a layer of well-cooked and seasoned risotto, number 190, then a layer of the scallops of beef, and then another layer of risotto. Heat in a bain-marie and turn out of the pie dish and serve with a very good sauce poured round it. Number 82. Tenerumi alla Piemontese, tendons of veal. Ingredients: tendons of veal, fowl forcemeat, truffles, risotto no. 190, a coxcomb tongue. Tendons of veal are that part of the breast which lies near the ribs and forms an opaque, gristly substance. Partly braise a fine bit of this joint and press it between 2 plates till cold. Cut it up into fillets, and on each spread a thin layer of fowl forcemeat and decorate with slices of truffle. Put the fillets into a stewpan, cover them with very good stock, and boil till the forcemeat and truffles are quite cooked. Prepare a risotto all'italiana, number 190, Put it on a dish and decorate it with bits of red tongue cut into shapes, and in the center put a whole cooked truffle and a white coxcomb, both on a silver skewer. Place the tendons of veal round the dish. Add a good espagnole sauce, number 1, and serve. If you like, leave out the risotto and serve the veal with espagnole sauce mixed with cooked peas and chopped truffle. Number 83. Braciole di Vitello veal cutlets. Ingredients: veal, salt, pepper, butter, bacon, carrots, flour, chablis, water, lemon. Cut a bit of veal steak into pieces the size of small cutlets, salt and pepper them, and put them in a wide low stew pan. Add 2 ounces of butter, a cut-up carrot, and some bits of bacon also cut up. When they are browned, add a spoonful of flour, half a glass of chablis, and half a glass of water, and cook on a slow fire for half an hour. Then take out the cutlets, reduce the sauce, and pass it through a sieve. Put it back on the fire and add an ounce of butter and a good squeeze of lemon, and when hot, pour it over the cutlets. Number 84. Costolette alla manza veal cutlets. Ingredients: veal cutlets, fowl or turkey cutlets, forcemeat, truffles, mushrooms, tongue, parsley, pasta marinade, number 17. Cut a few horizontal lines along your cutlets, and on each put a little veal or fowl forcemeat, to which add in equal quantities chopped truffles, tongue, mushrooms, and a little parsley. Over this put a thin layer of pasta marinade and fry the cutlets on a slow fire. Number 85. Vitello alla Pellegrina, breast of veal. Ingredients: breast of veal, butter, onions, sugar, stock, red wine, mushrooms, bacon, salt, flour, bay leaf. Roast a bit of breast of veal, then glaze over 2 Spanish onions with butter and a little sugar, and when they are a good color pour a teacup of stock and a glass of burgundy over them, and add a few mushrooms, a bay leaf, some salt, and a few bits of bacon. When the mushrooms and onions are cooked, skim off the fat and thicken the sauce with a little flour and butter fried together. Pour it over the veal and put the onions and mushrooms round the dish. Number 86. Frittata piccata al marsala, fillet of veal. Ingredients: veal, butter, marsala, stock, lemon, bacon. Cut a tender bit of veal steak into small fillets, cut off all the fat and stringy parts, flour them and fry them in butter. When they are slightly browned, add a glass of marsala and a teacup of good stock, and fry on a very hot fire so that the fillets may remain tender. Take them off the fire, put a little roll of fried bacon on each, add a squeeze of lemon juice, and serve. Number 87. Palpatine d'Estes veal olives. Ingredients: veal steak, butter, bread, eggs, pistachio nuts, spice, parsley. Cut some slices of veal steak very thin as for veal olives, and spread them out in a well-buttered stew pan. On each slice of veal put half a spoonful of the following mixture. Pound some crumb of bread and mix it with a whole egg, add a little salt, some pistachio nuts, herbs, and parsley chopped up, and a little butter. Roll up each slice of veal, cover with a sheet of buttered paper, put the cover on the stew pan, and cook for 3/4 of an hour in 2 ounces of butter on a slow fire. Thicken the sauce with a dessert spoonful of flour and butter fried together. Number 88. Cos di Vitello imboraxiate, ribs of veal. Ingredients: ribs of veal, butter, eggs, parmesan, breadcrumbs, parsley. Cut all the sinews from a piece of neck or ribs of veal, cover the meat with plenty of butter and cook it on a slow fire, then let it get cold. When cold, egg it over and roll it in breadcrumbs mixed with a tablespoonful of grated parmesan. Fry in butter and serve with a garnish of fried parsley and a rich sauce. A dessert spoonful of New Century sauce mixed with 1/4 of a pint of good thick stock makes a good sauce. See number 226. Number 89. Costolette di Monton alla Nizzarda, mutton cutlets. Ingredients: mutton cutlets, butter, olives, mushrooms, cucumbers. Trim as many cutlets as you require, and marinate them in vinegar, herbs, and spice for 2 hours. Before cooking, wipe them well and then sauté them in clarified butter, and when they are well colored on both sides and resist the pressure of the finger, drain off the butter and pour 4 tablespoonsful of espagnole sauce. Number 1, with a teaspoonful of vinegar and 6 bruised pepper corns over them. Arrange them on a dish, putting between each cutlet a crouton of fried bread, and garnish with olives stuffed with chopped mushrooms and with slices of fried cucumber. Number 90. Petto di castrato all'italiana, breast of mutton. Ingredients: breast of mutton, veal, forcemeat, eggs, herbs, spice, parmesan. Stuff a breast of mutton with veal forcemeat mixed with 2 eggs beaten up, herbs, a little spice, and a tablespoonful of grated Parmesan. Braise it in stock with a bunch of herbs and 2 onions. Serve with Italian sauce, number 6. Number 91. Petto di castrato alla salsa picante, breast of mutton. Ingredients, same as number 90. When the breast of mutton has been stuffed and cooked as above, let it get cold and then cut it into fillets, flour them over, fry in butter, and serve with tomato sauce piquante, number 10, or 1 dessertspoonful of New Century sauce in a 1/4 pint of good stock or gravy. Number 92. Tenerumi d'agnello alla Villeroy, tendons of lamb. Ingredients, tendons of lamb, eggs, breadcrumbs, truffles, butter, stock, Villeroy sauce. Slightly cook the tendons, the part of the breast near the ribs of lamb, press them between 2 dishes till cold, then cut into a good shape and dip them into a Villeroy sauce, number 18, egg and breadcrumb, and sauté them in butter. When about to serve, put them in a dish with very good clear gravy. A teaspoonful of chopped mint and a tablespoonful of chopped truffles mixed with the breadcrumbs will be a great improvement. Number 93. Tenerumi di agnello alla veneziana, tendons of lamb. Ingredients, tendons of lamb, butter, parsley, onions, stock. Fry the tendons of lamb and butter together with a teaspoonful of chopped parsley and an onion. Serve with good gravy. Number 94. Costolette di agnello alla costanza, lamb cutlets. Ingredients, lamb cutlets, butter, stock, coxcombs, fowl's liver, mushrooms. Fry as many lamb cutlets as you require very sharply in butter, drain off the butter, and replace it with some very good stock or gravy. Make a ragout of coxcombs, bits of fowl's liver and mushrooms all cut up, add a white sauce with half a gill of cream mixed with it, and with this mask the cutlets and sauté them for 15 minutes. Tongue, sweetbread, calf's head, liver, sucking pig, and c. Number 95. Timballo alla romana. Ingredients, cold fowl, game or sweetbread, butter, lard, flour, Parmesan, truffles, macaroni, onions, cream. Make a light paste of 2 ounces of butter, 2 of lard and half a pound of flour, and put it in the larder for 2 hours. In the meantime boil a little macaroni and let it get cold, then line a plain mold with the paste and fill it with bits of cut-up fowl or game or sweetbread, bits of truffle cut in small dice, grated Parmesan, and a little chopped onion. Put these ingredients in alternately, and after each layer add enough cream to moisten. Fill the mold quite full, then roll out a thin paste for the top and press it well together at the edges to keep the cream from boiling out. Bake it in a moderate oven for an hour and a half, turn it out of the mold, and serve with a rich brown sauce. Decorate the top with bits of red tongue and truffles cut into shapes or with a little chopped pistachio nut. Number 96. Timballo alla Lombarda. Ingredients, macaroni, fowl or game, eggs, stock, veloute sauce, number 2, tongue, butter, truffles. Butter a smooth mold, then boil some macaroni, but take care that it is in long pieces. When cold, take the longest bits and line the bottom of the mold, making the macaroni go in circles, and when you come to the end of one piece, join on the next as closely as possible until the whole mold is lined. Paint it over now and then with white of egg beaten up. Then mask the whole inside with a thin layer of forcemeat of fowl, which should also be put on with white of egg to make it adhere. Then cut up the bits of macaroni which remain, warm them up in some good fowl stock and veloute sauce much reduced, a little melted butter, some bits of truffle cut into dice, tongue, fowl or game also cut up in pieces. When the mold is full, put on another layer of forcemeat, steam for an hour, then turn out and serve with a very good brown sauce. Number 97. Lingua alla Visconti, tongue. Ingredients, tongue, glaze, bread, spinach, white grapes, port. Soak a smoked tongue in fresh water for 48 hours, then boil it till it is tender. Peel off the skin, cut the tongue in rather thick slices, and glaze them. Prepare an oval border of fried bread, cover it with spinach about 2 inches thick, and on this arrange the slices of tongue. Fill in the center of the dish with white grapes cooked in port or muscat. Number 98. Lingua di manzo al citrioli, tongue with cucumber. Ingredients, ox tongue, salt, pepper, nutmeg, parsley, bacon, veal, carrots, onions, thyme, bay leaves, cloves, stock. Gently boil an ox tongue until you can peel off the skin, then lard it, season it with salt, pepper, nutmeg, and chopped parsley, and boil it with some bits of bacon, ham, veal, a carrot, an onion, 2 bay leaves, thyme, and 2 cloves. Pour some good stock over it and let it simmer gently until it is cooked. Put the tongue on a dish and garnish it with slices of fried cucumber. Boil the cucumber for 5 minutes before you fry it to take away the bitter taste. Serve the tongue with a sauce piquante, made with 1 dessertspoonful of New Century sauce to a 1/4 pint of Good Espanol sauce. Number 1. Number 99. Ling di castrato alla cuciniera, sheep's tongues. Ingredients: sheep's tongues, bacon, beef, onions, herbs, spice, eggs, butter, flour. Cook 3 or 4 sheep's tongues in good stock and add some slices of bacon, bits of beef, 2 onions, a bunch of herbs, and a pinch of spice. Let them get cold, flour them and mask them with egg beaten up and fry quickly in butter. Serve with Italian sauce. Number 6. Number 100. Ling di vitello all'italiana, calf's tongues. Ingredients: calf's tongues, salt, butter, stock, water, glaze, potatoes, ham, truffles, sauce piquante. Rub a good handful of salt into 2 or 3 calf's tongues and leave them for 24 hours. Then wash off all the salt and soak them in fresh water for 2 hours. Stew them gently till tender, take them out, skin and braise them in butter and good stock for half an hour. Let them get cold and cut them into slices about half an inch thick. Put the slices into a buttered sauté pan and cover them with a good thick glaze. Let them get quite hot and then arrange them on a border of potatoes and garnish each slice with round shapes of cooked ham and truffle. Fill the center with any vegetables you like. Fried cucumber is excellent, but if you use it, do not forget to boil it for 5 minutes before you fry it to take away the bitter taste. Serve with a sauce piquante. No. 10 or number 226. Number 101. Porcelletto alla corradino, sucking pig. Ingredients: sucking pig, ham, eggs, parmesan, truffles, mushrooms, garlic, bay leaves, coriander seeds, pistachio nuts, veal forcemeat, suet, bacon, herbs, spice. Bone a sucking pig, remove all the inside and fill it with a stuffing made of veal forcemeat mixed with a little chopped suet, ham, bacon, herbs, 2 tablespoonsful of finely chopped pistachio nuts, a pinch of spice, 6 coriander seeds, 2 tablespoonsful of grated parmesan, cuttings of truffles and mushrooms all bound together with eggs. Sew the pig up and braise it in a big stew pan with bits of bacon, a clove of garlic with 2 cuts, a bunch of herbs and 1 bay leaf for half an hour. Then pour off the gravy, cover the pig with well-buttered paper, and finish cooking it in the oven. Garnish the top with vegetables and truffles cut into shapes, slices of lemon and sprigs of parsley. Serve with a good sauce piquante. Number 229. Do not leave the garlic in for more than 10 minutes. Number 102. Porcelletto di latte in gallantina, sucking pig. Ingredients: sucking pig, forcemeat of fowl, bacon, truffles, pistachio nuts, ham, lemon, veal, bay leaves, salt, carrots, onions, shallots, parsley, stock, chablis, gravy. Bone a sucking pig all except its feet, but be careful not to cut the skin on its back. Lay it out on a napkin and line it inside with a forcemeat of fowl and veal about an inch thick. Over this put a layer of bits of marinated bacon, slices of truffle, pistachio nuts, cooked ham, and some of the flesh of the pig, then another layer of forcemeat until the pig's skin is fairly filled. Keep its shape by sewing it lightly together, then rub it all over with lemon juice and cover it with slices of fat bacon, roll it up and stitch it in a pudding cloth. Then put the bones and cuttings into a stew pan with bits of bacon and veal steak cut up, 2 bay leaves, salt, a carrot, an onion, a shallot, and a bunch of parsley. Into this put the pig with a bottle of white wine and sufficient stock to cover it, and cook on a slow fire for 3 hours. Then take it out, and when cold, take off the pudding cloth. Pass the liquor through a hair sieve, and, if necessary, add some stock, reduce and clarify it. Decorate the dish with this jelly and serve cold. Number 103. Atleti alla sarda. Ingredients: veal or fowl, ox palates, stock, tongue, truffles, butter, mushrooms, sweetbread. Soak 2 ox palates in salted water for 4 hours, then boil them until the rough skin comes off, and cook them in good stock for 6 hours. Press them between 2 plates and let them get cold. Roll some forcemeat of veal or fowl in flour, cut it into small pieces about the size of a cork, boil them in salted water, let them get cold, and cut them into circular pieces. Cut the ox palates also into circular pieces the same size as the bits of forcemeat, then thinner circles of cooked tongue and truffles. String these pieces alternately on small silver skewers. Reduce to half its quantity a pint of veloute sauce, number 2, and add the cuttings of the truffles, mushroom trimmings, bits of sweetbread, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Let it get cold and then mask the eightlets, or skewers with the forcemeat, and see with it, and fry them quickly in butter. Fry a large oval crouton of bread, scoop out the center, and fill it with fried slices of cucumber and truffles boiled in a little chablis. Stick the skewers into the crouton and pour the sauce round it. For a maigre dish, use fillets of fish, truffles, mushrooms, and bechamel sauce, number 3. The cucumber should be boiled for 5 minutes before it is fried. Number 104. Atleti alla Genovese. Ingredients: veal, sweetbread, calf's brains, ox palates, mushrooms, fons d'artichauts, coxcombs, eggs, parmesan, breadcrumbs. Cook 2 ox palates as in the last recipe, then take equal quantities of veal steak, sweetbread, calf's brains, equal quantities of mushrooms, fons d'artichauts, and coxcombs. Fry them all in butter except the palates, but be careful to put the veal in first, as it requires longer cooking. The brains should go in last. Then put all these ingredients on a cutting board and add the palates, cooked separately. Cut them all into pieces of equal size, either round or square, but keep the ingredients separate and string them alternately on silver skewers as in the last recipe. Then pound up all the cuttings and add a little crumb of bread soaked in stock, the yolks of 3 eggs, the whites of 2 well beaten up, 2 dessert spoonsful of grated parmesan, salt to taste, and chopped truffles. Mix all this well together and mask the eightlets with it. Egg and bread, crumb them and fry in butter. When they are a good color, serve with fried parsley. Number 105. Testa di vitello alla sorrentina, calf's head. Ingredients: calf's head, veal, sweetbread, truffles, mushrooms, pistachio nuts, eggs, herbs, spice, stock, bacon, ham. Boil a half calf's head well, and when it is half cold, bone it and fill it with a stuffing of veal, the calf's brains, sweetbread, truffles, mushrooms, pistachio nuts, the yolks of 2 eggs, herbs, and a little spice. Then stitch it up and braise it in good stock, with some slices of bacon, ham, and a bunch of herbs. Serve with brain sauce mixed with cream. Number 106. Testa di vitello con salsa napolitana, calf's head. Ingredients: calf's head, calf's liver, bacon, suet, truffles, almonds, olives, calf's brains, capers, spice, coriander seeds, herbs, ham, stock. Boil half a calf's head, bone it and fill it with a stuffing made of 4 ounces of calf's liver, well chopped up and pounded in a mortar, 2 ounces of bacon, 1 ounce of suet, 3 truffles, 6 almonds, 3 olives, 6 coriander seeds, 6 capers, the calf's brains, a pinch of spice, and a teaspoonful of chopped herbs. Roll up the head, tie it up and put it into a stewpan with some bits of bacon, ham, and very good stock, and stew it slowly. Serve with Neapolitan sauce, No. 12, or with tomato sauce piquante, number 10. Number 107. Testa di vitello alla pompadour, calf's head. Ingredients: calf's head, calf's brains, cream, eggs, truffles, cinnamon, stock, butter, parmesan. Boil and bone half a calf's head and fill it with a stuffing made of the calf's brains, a gill of cream, the yolks of 2 eggs, 2 truffles cut up, a little chopped ham, and a tiny pinch of cinnamon. Boil it in good stock, and when it is sufficiently cooked, take it out and mask it all over with a mixture of butter, yolk of egg, and a tablespoonful of grated parmesan, then brown it in the oven and serve hot. Number 108. Testa di vitello alla sanseverino, calf's head. Ingredients: calf's head, sweetbread, fowl's liver, anchovies, herbs, capers, garlic, bacon, ham, Malmsey or muscat. Boil and bone half a calf's head and fill it with a stuffing made of half a pound of sweetbread, a fowl's liver, 2 anchovies, a teaspoonful of chopped herbs, a few chopped capers, and the calf's brains. Roll the head up, stitch it together, and braise it in half a tumbler of Malmsey or Australian muscat burgons, half a cup of very good white stock, some bits of ham and bacon, and a clove of garlic with 2 cuts. Cook it gently for 4 hours and serve it with its own sauce. Do not leave the garlic in longer than 10 minutes. Number 109. Testa di vitello and frittata, calf's head. Ingredients: calf's head, eggs, parmesan, ham, pepper, butter, croutons. A good réchauffe of calf's head may be made in the following manner. After the head has been well boiled in good stock, cut it into slices and mask these with a mixture of eggs well beaten up, grated parmesan, pepper, and chopped ham. Fry in butter and garnish with fried parsley and fried croutons. Serve with a sauce made of 1/4 of a pint of good bechamel, number 3, and a dessert spoonful of new century sauce. Number 110, Zampetti calves feet. Ingredients: calves or pig's feet, butter, leeks or small onions, parsley, salt, pepper, stock, tomatoes, eggs, cheese, cinnamon. Blanch and bone 2 or more calves or pig's feet and put them into a stewpan with butter, leeks or onions, chopped parsley, salt, pepper, and a little stock. Let them boil till the liquid is somewhat reduced, then add good meat gravy and 2 tablespoonsful of tomato puree, and just before taking the stewpan off the fire, add the yolks of 2 eggs beaten up, a tablespoonful of grated cheese, and a tiny pinch of cinnamon. Mix all well together and serve very hot. Number 111, Bedini marinati. Ingredients: veal forcemeat, truffles, sweetbread, mushrooms, herbs, flour, pasta marinade, number 17, tongue, butter. Make a mixture of truffles, tongue, sweetbread, mushrooms, and herbs all chopped up, and add it to a forcemeat of veal, the proportions being 2/3 veal forcemeat and the other ingredients 1/3. Mix this well and form it into little balls about the size of a pigeon's egg, flour them and mask them all over with pasta marinade, number 17. Fry them in butter over a slow fire, so that the balls may be well cooked through, and when they are the right color, dry them in a napkin and serve very hot. These bedini may be made with various ingredients. They will be most delicate with a forcemeat of fowl and bits of brain mixed with herbs, truffle, cooked ham, or tongue. They are also excellent made with fish, sole, mullet, turbot, and sea, either cooked or raw, and marinated in lemon, salt, pepper, oil, nutmeg, and parsley. Number 112, Animelle alla Parmigiana, sweetbread. Ingredients: sweetbread, breadcrumbs, parmesan, butter. Blanch as many sweetbreads as you require, and then roll them in breadcrumbs mixed with grated parmesan, salt, and pepper. Wrap them up in buttered greaseproof paper and grill them. When they are cooked, take off the paper and serve with a good sauce in a sauceboat. Number 113, Animelle in Cartoccio, sweetbread. Ingredients: sweetbread, butter, herbs, salt, pepper, breadcrumbs, parmesan, lemons, gravy, tomatoes. Blanch a pound of sweetbread cuttings, mix it with 2 ounces of melted butter, chopped herbs, salt, and pepper, and put it into paper soufflé cases. Then strew over each some breadcrumbs mixed with grated parmesan, put the cases in the oven, and when they are browned, serve either with good gravy and lemon juice or with tomato sauce, number 9. Number 114, Animelle Italiana, sweetbread. Ingredients: sweetbread, butter, onions, salt, herbs, eggs, glaze, risotto, number 190, truffles, quenelles of fowl, espagnole sauce, white sauce. Blanch as many sweetbreads as you require, cut them into quarters and sauté them in butter with a small onion cut up, salt, and a bunch of herbs. Then pour over them 2 cups of white sauce and cook gently for 20 minutes. Take out the sweetbreads and put them in a stewpan. Reduce the sauce and add to it a mixture made of the yolks of 4 eggs, 1½ ounce of butter, and a teaspoonful of glaze. Pass it through a sieve, pour it over the sweetbreads, and keep them warm in a bain-marie. Have ready a good risotto all'italiana, number 190, and put it into a border mold, but first decorate the inside of the mold with slices of truffle, put it in a moderate oven, and when it is warm, turn it out on a dish. Place the sweetbreads on the risotto and fill in the center with quenelles of fowl and espagnole sauce, number 1. Number 115, Animelle lardolate sweetbread. Ingredients: sweetbreads, larding, bacon, stock, a macedoine of vegetables. Blanch 2 sweetbreads, lard them, and cook them very slowly in good stock. Skim the stock and reduce it to a glaze to cover the sweetbreads. Then cut them into 3 or 4 pieces and arrange them round a dish, but see that the larding is well glazed over. In the center of the dish, place a piece of bread in the shape of a cup and fill this with a macedoine of vegetables. Number 116, Frittata di botany e di animelle, sweetbread and mushrooms. Ingredients: sweetbread, fresh button mushrooms, flour, breadcrumbs, salt, pepper, parsley, butter, lemons. Peel some button mushrooms and cut them in halves. Boil a sweetbread and cut it into pieces about the same size as the mushrooms, flour, egg, and bread. Crumb them and fry in butter, then serve with a garnish of fried parsley. Hand-cut lemons with this dish. Number 117, Cervello in Philly Serb, calf's brains. Ingredients: calf's brains, stock, butter, parsley, lemon. Boil half a calf's brain in good stock for 10 minutes, then drain and pour a little melted butter and the juice of half a lemon over the brain. Add some chopped parsley fried for 1 minute in butter and serve as hot as possible. Number 118. Cervello alla Milanese, calf's brains. Ingredients: calf's brains, eggs, breadcrumbs, butter. Scald a calf's brain and let it get cold. Wipe it on a cloth and get it as dry as possible, then cut it into pieces about the size of a walnut. Egg and bread crumb them, fry in butter, and strew a little salt over them. Number 119. Cervello alla Villeroy, calf's brains. Ingredients: calf's brains, eggs, flour, mushrooms, veloute sauce. Scald a calf's brain, and when cold, cut it up and mask each piece with a thick sauce made of well-reduced veloute. Number 2. Mixed with chopped cooked mushrooms. Flour them over and dip them into the yolk of an egg and fry as quickly as possible. Number 120. Frittata of liver and brains. Ingredients: calf's liver and brains or lamb's or pig's fry, butter, ham, flour, puff pastry. Cut up half a pound of liver in small slices. Flour and fry them in butter or dripping, together with a calf's or pig's or sheep's brain, previously scalded and also cut up. Serve with bits of fried ham and little diamond-shaped pieces of puff pastry. Number 121. Cervello in frittata montano, calf's brains. Ingredients: calf's brains, stock, cream, eggs, spice, parmesan, butter. Boil a calf's brain in good stock for 10 minutes. Let it get cold, cut it up into little balls, and mask each piece with a mixture made of half a gill of cream, the yolks of 2 eggs, a little spice, a tablespoonful of grated parmesan, and the whites of 2 eggs well beaten up. Fry the balls in butter and serve as hot as possible. You may mask and cook the calf's brain without cutting it up, if you prefer it so. Number 122. Marinata di cervello alla Villeroy, calf's brains. Ingredients: calf's brains, stock, bechamel sauce, eggs, butter, lemon, 4 cm of fowl flour. Boil a calf's or sheep's brain in good stock, wipe it well, and cut it up. Reduce a pint of bechamel number 3, and add to it the yolks of 3 eggs, an ounce of butter, and the juice of a lemon. When it boils, throw in the cut-up brain. Let it cool, then take out the brain and form it into little balls about the size of a small walnut. Make a forcemeat of fowl and add a dessert spoonful of flour to it, and spread it out very thin on a pasteboard, and into this wrap the balls of brain, each separately. Dip them into a pasta marinade number 17, and fry them a golden brown. Number 123. Minuta alla Milanese, lamb sweetbread. Ingredients: lamb sweetbread, butter, onions, stock, chablis, salt, lemon, herbs, coxcombs, fowl's livers. Cut up equal quantities of lamb sweetbreads, coxcombs, fowl's livers in pieces about the size of a filbert. Flour and fry them slightly in butter and a small bit of onion. Add half a glass of chablis, a cup of good stock, and a bunch of herbs. Reduce the sauce and thicken it with a tablespoonful of butter and flour fried together. Make a border of risotto all'italiana, number 190, and put the sweetbread and together with the sauce in the center. Number 124. Animal al sapor di targun, lamb's fry. Ingredients: lamb's fry, ham, garlic, larding bacon, spice, herbs, butter, flour, stock. The lamb's fry should be nearly all sweetbread and very little liver. Lard each piece with bacon and ham and roll it in chopped herbs and a pinch of pounded spice. Then dip it in flour and braise in good stock, to which add 3 ounces of butter, some bits of bacon, ham, a bay leaf, herbs, and a clove of garlic with 2 cuts. Cook until the fry is well glazed over and serve with tarragon sauce No. 8. Do not leave the garlic in longer than 10 minutes. Number 125. Fritto misto alla Villeroy. Ingredients: coxcombs, calf's brains, sweetbread, stock, truffles, mushrooms, Villeroy, eggs, breadcrumbs. Cook some big coxcombs, bits of calf's brains, and sweetbread in good stock, then drain them and marinate them slightly in lemon juice and herbs. Prepare a Villeroy number 18, and add to it cuttings of sweetbread, brains, truffles, mushrooms, and when it is cold. Mask the coxcombs and other ingredients with it, egg and bread crumb them, and fry them a golden brown. Number 126. Fritto misto alla Piemontese. Ingredients: sweetbread, calf's brains, ox palate, flour, eggs, chablis, salt, herbs, butter. Make a thin paste with a tablespoonful of flour, the yolks of 2 eggs, 2 spoonsful of chablis, and a little salt. Mix this up well, and if it is too thick, add a little water. Beat up the whites of the 2 eggs into a snow. In the meantime, blanch a sweetbread, half a calf's brain, and a few bits of cooked ox palate. Boil them all up with a bunch of herbs, cut them into pieces about the size of a walnut, and dip them into the paste so that each piece is well covered. Then dip them into the beaten-up whites of egg and fry them very quickly in butter. This fry is generally served with a garnish of French beans, which should not be cut up, but half-boiled, then dried, floured over and fried together with the other ingredients. The ox palates should be boiled for at least 6 hours before you use them in this dish. Number 127. Minuta di fegatini, ragu of fowl's livers. Ingredients: fowl's or turkey's livers, flour, butter, parsley, onions, salt, pepper, stock, chablis. Cut the livers in half, flour them, and fry lightly in butter with chopped parsley, very little chopped onion, salt, and pepper. Then add a quarter pint of boiling stock and half a glass of chablis, and cook until the sauce is somewhat reduced. You can also cook the livers simply in good meat gravy, but in this case they should not be floured. Serve with a border of macaroni, number 183, or risotto, number 190, or polenta, number 187. Number 128. Minuta alla Visconti, chicken's livers. Ingredients: fowl's livers, eggs, cheese, butter, cream, cayenne pepper. Braise 2 fowl's livers in butter, then pound them up, and mix with a little cream, a tablespoonful of grated cheese, and a dust of cayenne. Spread this rather thickly over small squares of toast, and keep them hot whilst you make a custard with half an ounce of butter, an egg well beaten up, and a tablespoonful of cheese. Stir it over the fire till thick and then spread it on the hot toast. Serve very hot. This makes a good savory. Number 129. Croutons alla principesca. Ingredients: croutons, tongue, sweetbread, truffles, fowl or game, veloute sauce, stock, eggs, butter. Fry a bit of bread in butter till it is a light brown color, then cut it into heart-shaped pieces. Prepare a ragu with bits of tongue, sweetbread, fowl or game, truffles, 2 or 3 spoonsful of well-reduced veloute sauce, number 2, and 2 or 3 of reduced gravy. Put a spoonful of the ragu in each crouton, and over it a layer of fowl forcemeat half an inch thick. Trim the edges neatly, glaze them with the yolk of eggs beaten up, and put them in a buttered fireproof dish in the oven for 20 minutes. Then glaze them with reduced stock and serve hot. For a maigre dish, use fish for the ragu and forcemeat. Number 130. Croutons alla Romana. Ingredients: bread, fowl forcemeat, tongue, truffles, herbs, cream, stock, butter, flour, eggs. Cut a bit of crumb of bread into round or square shapes, and on each put a spoonful of fowl or rabbit forcemeat, a little chopped tongue, and a slight flavoring of chopped herbs. Cover with a slice of bread the same shape as the underneath piece, put them in a buttered fireproof dish, and moisten them well with cream, butter, and stock. Cook until all the liquor is absorbed, but turn them over so that both sides may be well cooked, then flour and dip them into beaten-up eggs. Fry them a good color and serve very hot. For a maigre dish, use forcemeat of fish or lobster, and more cream instead of stock. Fowl, duck, game, hare, rabbit, and sea. Number 131. Soffiato di capon, fowl souffle. Ingredients: fowl, bechamel, stock, semolina flour, potatoes, salt, eggs, butter, smoked tongue or ham. Prepare a puree of fowl or turkey and a small quantity of grated tongue or ham, and whilst you are pounding the meat, add some good gravy or stock. Then make a bechamel sauce, number 3, and add 2 tablespoonsful of semolina flour, a boiled potato and salt to taste, boil it up and add the puree of fowl, then let it get nearly cold. Add yolks of eggs and the white beaten up into a snow. For 1 pint of the puree, use the yolks of 3 eggs. Pour the whole into a buttered souffle case, and half an hour before serving put it in a moderate oven and serve hot. You can use game instead of fowl, and serve in little souffle cases. Number 132. Pollo alla Fiorentina, chicken. Ingredients: fowl, butter, vegetables, rice or macaroni, peppercorns, stock, ham, tomatoes, bay leaves, onions, cloves, liebig. Roll up a fowl in buttered paper and put it in the oven in a fireproof dish with all kinds of vegetables and a few peppercorns. Leave it there for about 2 hours, then put the fowl and vegetables into 2 quarts of good stock and let it simmer for 1 hour. Serve on well-boiled rice or macaroni and pour the following sauce over it. Sauce: 2 pounds tomatoes, 1 big cup of good stock, a 1/4 pound of chopped ham, 3 bay leaves, 1 onion stuck with cloves, 1 teaspoonful of Liebig. Simmer an hour and a half. Number 133, Pollo all'oliva chicken. Ingredients: fowl, onions, celery, salt, parsley, carrots, butter, stock, olives, tomatoes. Cut up half an onion, a stick of celery, a sprig of parsley, a carrot, and cook them all in a 1/4 pound of butter. Into this put a fowl cut up and let it act brown all over, turn when necessary, and then baste it with boiling stock. Add 4 Spanish olives cut up and 4 others pounded in a mortar, 8 whole olives, and 3 tablespoonsful of tomato puree reduced, and when the fowl is well cooked, pour the sauce over it. Number 134, Pollo alla Villarexia chicken. Ingredients: fowl, butter, flour, stock, bacon, ham, mushrooms, onions, cloves, eggs, cream, lemons. Cut up a fowl into quarters and put it into a saucepan with 3 ounces of butter and a tablespoonful of flour. Put it on the fire, and when it is well browned, add half a pint of stock, bits of bacon and ham, butter, 3 mushrooms, previously boiled, an onion stuck with 3 cloves. When this is cooked, skim off the grease, pass the sauce through a sieve, and add the yolks of 2 eggs mixed with 2 tablespoonsful of cream. Lastly, add a squeeze of lemon juice to the sauce and pour it over the fowl. Number 135, Pollo alla cacciatora chicken. Ingredients: the same as number 134 and tomatoes. Cook the fowl exactly as above, but add either a puree of tomatoes or tomato sauce. Number 136, Pilastro alla Lornese, fowl. Ingredients: fowl, butter, parsley, lemon, small onions, breadcrumbs. Cut up a fowl and put it into a frying pan with 2 ounces of butter, 1 onion cut up, and a sprig of chopped parsley, salt, and pepper. Put it on the fire and cook it, but turn the pieces several times. Then take them out and roll them whilst hot in breadcrumbs and fry them. Serve with cut lemons. Number 137, Pilastro in fricassee al burro, fowl. Ingredients: fowl, butter, fat bacon, ham, mushrooms, truffles, herbs, spice, gravy. Cut up a fowl and cook it in a fricassee of butter, bacon, ham, herbs, mushrooms, truffles, spice, and good gravy or stock. Serve in its own gravy. Number 138, Pilastro in estofado di pomodoro, braised fowl. Ingredients: fowl, bacon, ham, bay leaf, spice, garlic, burgundy tomatoes. Braise a fowl with bits of fat bacon, ham, a bay leaf, a clove of garlic with 1 cut in it, a pinch of spice, and a glass of burgundy. Only leave the garlic in for 5 minutes. When cooked, serve with tomato sauce. Number 9. Number 139, Capon con riso, capon with rice. Ingredients: capon, veal forcemeat, fat bacon, stock, rice, truffles, mushrooms, coxcombs, kidneys or fowl's liver, supreme sauce, milk, chablis. Stuff a fine capon with a good firm forcemeat made of veal, tongue, ham, and chopped truffles. Cover it with larding bacon. Tie it up in buttered paper, and cook it in very good white stock. In the meantime, boil 4 ounces of rice in milk till quite stiff, mix in some chopped truffles, and make 10 little timbales of it. Take out the capon when it is sufficiently cooked and place it on a dish. Garnish it with cooked mushrooms, coxcombs, kidneys or fowl's livers, and pour a sauce supreme, number 16, over it. Round the dish, place the timbales of rice, and between each put a whole truffle cooked in white wine. Serve a sauce supreme in a sauce bowl. Number 140, Dindo, arrosto alla Milanese, roast turkey. Ingredients: turkey, sausage meat, prunes, chestnuts, a pear, butter, marsala, salt, rosemary, bacon, carrot, onion, turnip, garlic. Blanch for 7 or 8 minutes 3 prunes, 1/4 pound of sausage meat, 3 tablespoonsful of chestnut puree, 2 small slices of bacon, half a cooked pear, and sauté them in butter. Chop up the liver and gizzard of the turkey, mix them with the other ingredients, and add half a glass of marsala. Use this as a stuffing for the turkey, and first braise it for 3/4 hour with salt, butter, a blade of rosemary, bits of fat bacon, a carrot, a turnip, an onion, 3 cloves, and a clove of garlic with a cut. Then roast it before a clear fire for about 20 minutes. Put it back into the sauce till it is ready to serve. Only leave the garlic in 10 minutes. Number 141, Tacinato Alestriani, turkey poult. Ingredients: a turkey poult, ham, mace, bay leaves, lemons, water, salt, onions, parsley, celery, carrots, chablis. Truss a turkey poult and cover it all over with slices of ham or bacon. Put 2 bay leaves and 4 slices of lemon on it and sprinkle with a small pinch of mace. Then sew it up tight in a dishcloth and stew it in good stock, salt, an onion, parsley, a stick of celery, a carrot, and a pint of chablis. Cook for an hour, take it out of the cloth, and pour a good rich sauce over it. It is also good cold with aspic jelly. Number 142. Fagiano alla Napolitana, pheasant. Ingredients: pheasant, macaroni, gravy, butter, parmesan, tomatoes. Lard a pheasant, roast it, and serve it on a layer of macaroni cooked with good reduced gravy, 2 ounces of butter, a tablespoonful of grated parmesan, and a puree of tomatoes. Serve with Neapolitan sauce, number 12, in a sauce bowl. Number 143. Fagiano alla Perigo, pheasant. Ingredients: pheasant, butter, truffles, larding bacon, Madeira. Make a mixture of 3 tablespoonfuls of chopped truffles, 3 ounces of butter and a little salt, and with this stuff, a pheasant. Then cover it with slices of fat bacon and keep it in a cool place till next day. A few hours before serving, roast the pheasant and baste it well with melted butter and a wine glass of Madeira or Marsala. Make a crouton of fried bread the shape of your dish, and over this put a layer of forcemeat of fowl and a number of small fowl quenelles. Cover them with buttered paper, then put the dish in the oven for a few minutes so as to settle the forcemeat. When the pheasant is cooked, place it on the crouton and garnish it with slices of truffle which have been previously cooked in Madeira, and serve with a Perigord sauce. Number 144. Anitra selvatica, wild duck. Ingredients: wild duck butter, fowl's livers, marsala, gravy, turnips, carrots, parsley, mushrooms. Cut a wild duck into quarters and put it into a stewpan with 2 fowl's livers cut up and fried in butter. When the pieces of duck are colored on both sides, pour off the butter, and in its place pour a glass of marsala, a cup of stock, and a cup of espagnole sauce, no one, and cook gently for 10 minutes. In the meantime, shape and blanch 6 young turnips and as many young carrots, put them into a stewpan, and on the top of them put the pieces of wild duck, liver, and pass the liquor through a sieve and pour it over the wild duck. Add a bunch of parsley and other herbs and 5 little mushrooms cut up, and cook on a slow fire for half an hour. Skim the sauce, pass it through a sieve, and add a pinch of sugar. Put the pieces of wild duck in an entree dish, add the vegetables, and pour the sauce over and serve. Number 145. Perniciati alla Gastalda, partridges. Ingredients: partridges, cauliflower, bacon, sausage, fowl's livers, carrots, onions, herbs, stock, gravy, butter, Madeira. Cut a cauliflower into quarters, blanch for a few minutes, drain, and put it into a saucepan with some bits of bacon. Let it drain on paper till dry, then arrange the bits in a circle in a deep stewpan, and in the center put a small bit of sausage, the livers of the partridges, a fowl's liver cut up, a carrot, an onion, and a bunch of herbs. Cover about 3/4 high with good stock and gravy, put butter on the top and boil gently for an hour. Then take out the sausage, replace it by 2 or 3 partridges, and simmer for 3/4 of an hour. In the meantime, cut a sausage in thin slices and line a mold with it. When the birds are cooked, take them out, drain and cut them up, and fill the mold with alternate layers of partridge and cauliflower, and steam for half an hour. 5 minutes before serving, turn the mold over on a plate, but do not take it off so as to let all the grease drain off. Cut up the fowls and partridges' livers, make them into scallops, and glaze them. Wipe off all the grease round the mold. Take it off, garnish the dish with the scallops of liver, and serve hot with an espagnole sauce, number 1, reduced, and add a glass of Madeira or Marsala and a glass of essence of game to it. This is an excellent way of cooking an old partridge or pheasant. Number 146. Beccaccini alla Diplomatica, snipe. Ingredients: snipe, ham, larding bacon, herbs, marsala, croutons, truffles, coxcombs, mushrooms, sweetbread, tongue. Truss 14 snipe and cook them in a mirepoix made with plenty of ham, fat bacon, herbs, and a wine glass of marsala. When they are cooked, pour off the sauce, skim off the grease, and reduce it. Take the 2 smallest snipe and make a forcemeat of them by pounding them in a mortar with the livers of all the snipe. Then dilute this with reduced espagnole sauce, number 1, and add it to the first sauce. Cut 12 croutons of bread just large enough to hold a snipe each and fry them in butter. Add some chopped herbs and truffles to the forcemeat, spread it on the croutons, and on each place a snipe and cover it with a bit of fat bacon and buttered paper. Put them in a moderate oven for a few minutes, arrange them on a dish, and pour some of their own sauce over them. Garnish the spaces between the croutons with white coxcombs, mushrooms, and truffles. The truffles should be scooped out and filled with a little stuffing of sweetbread, tongue, and truffles mixed with a little of the sauce of the snipe. Serve the rest of the sauce in a sauce boat. Number 147. Piccioni alla minute pigeons. Ingredients: pigeons, butter, truffles, herbs, fowl's livers, sweetbread, salt, flour, stock, burgundy. Prepare 2 pigeons and put them into a stewpan with 2 ounces of butter, 2 truffles cut up, 2 fowl's livers, ½ pound of sweetbread cuttings boiled, a bunch of herbs and salt. Let them brown a little, then add a dessert spoonful of flour mixed with stock and half a glass of burgundy and stew gently for half an hour. Number 148. Piccioni and ripieno, stuffed pigeons. Ingredients: pigeons, sweetbread, parsley, onions, carrots, salt, pepper, bacon, stock, chablis, fowl's livers, and gizzards. Cut up a sweetbread, a fowl's liver and gizzard, an onion, a sprig of parsley, and add salt and pepper. Put this stuffing into 2 pigeons, tie larding bacon over them, and put them into a stewpan with a glass of chablis, a cup of stock, an onion, and a carrot. When cooked, pass the sauce through a sieve, skim it, add a little more sauce, and pour it over the pigeons. Number 149. Lepre in estufato, stewed hare. Ingredients: hare, butter, onions, garlic, marjoram, celery, ham, salt, chablis, stock, mushrooms, spice, tomatoes. Put into a stewpan 3 ounces of butter, an onion cut up, a clove of garlic with a cut across it, a sprig of marjoram, and a little cut-up ham. Fry these slightly, put the hare cut up into the same stewpan, and let it get brown. Then pour a glass of chablis and a glass of stock over it. Add a little tomato sauce or a mashed-up tomato, a pinch of spice, and a few mushrooms. Take out the garlic and let the rest stew gently for an hour or more. Keep the cover on the stewpan, but stir the stew occasionally. Number 150. Lepre agrodolce, hare. Ingredients: hare, vinegar, butter, onion, ham, stock, salt, sugar, chocolate, almonds, raisins. Cut up a hare and wash the pieces in vinegar, then cook them in butter, chopped onion, some bits of ham stock, and a little salt. Half fill a wine glass with sugar and add vinegar until the glass is 3/4 full. Mix the vinegar and sugar well together, and when the hare is browned all over and nearly cooked, pour the vinegar over it and add a dessert spoonful of grated chocolate, a few shredded almonds, and stoned raisins. Mix all well together and cook for a few minutes more. This is a favorite Roman dish. Number 151. Coniglio alla Provenzale, rabbit. Ingredients: rabbit, flour, butter, stock, chablis, parsley, onion, spice, mushrooms. Cut up a rabbit, wipe the pieces, flour them over, and fry them in butter until they are colored all over. Then pour a glass of chablis over them, add some chopped parsley, half an onion, 3 mushrooms, salt, and a cup of good stock. Cover the stewpan and cook on a moderate fire for about 3/4 of an hour. Should the stew act too dry, add a spoonful of stock occasionally. Number 152. Coniglio arrostito alla corradino, roast rabbit. Ingredients: rabbit, pig's fry, butter, salt, pepper, fennel, bay leaf, onions. Make a stuffing of pig's fry, previously cooked in butter, salt, pepper, fennel, and onion, all chopped up, and a bay leaf. With this stuff a rabbit well and braise it for half an hour, then roast it before a brisk fire and baste it well with good gravy. If you like, put in a clove of garlic with 1 cut whilst it is being braised, but only leave it in for 5 minutes. Serve with ham sauce, salsa di prosciutto, No. 7. A fowl may be cooked in this way. Number 153. Coniglio in salsa picante, rabbit. Ingredients: rabbit, butter, flour, celery, parsley, onion, carrot, mushrooms, cloves, spices, burgundy, stock, capers, anchovies. Cut up a rabbit, wipe the pieces well on a dishcloth, flour them over and put them into a frying pan with 2 ounces of butter and fry for about 10 minutes. Then add half a stick of celery, parsley, an onion, half a carrot, and 3 mushrooms, all cut up, 3 cloves, a pinch of spice and salt, a glass of burgundy, and the same quantity of stock. Cover the stewpan and cook for half an hour. Then put the pieces of rabbit into another stewpan and pass the liquor through a sieve. Press it well with a wooden spoon so as to get as much through as possible. Pour this over the rabbit and add 4 capers and an anchovy in brine pounded in a mortar. Mix all well together. Let it simmer for a few minutes. Then serve hot with a garnish of croutons fried in butter. Vegetables. Number 154. Asparagi alla salsa suprema, asparagus. Ingredients: asparagus, butter, nutmeg, salt, supreme sauce, number 16 gravy, lemon, parmesan. Cut some asparagus into pieces about an inch long and cook them in boiling water with salt. Then drain and put them into a sauté pan with 1½ ounce of melted butter and sautés for a few minutes. But first add salt, a pinch of nutmeg, and a dust of grated cheese. Pour a little supreme sauce over them, and at the last add a little gravy, 1 ounce of fresh butter, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Number 155. Cavalli di Bruxelles alla Saviota, Brussels sprouts. Ingredients: Brussels sprouts, butter, pepper, stock, bechamel sauce, parmesan, croutons. Take off the outside leaves of ½ pound of Brussels sprouts, wash and boil them in salted water. Let them get cool, drain, and put them in a pie dish with 2 ounces of fresh butter, a 1/4 pint of very good stock, a little pepper, and a dust of grated parmesan. When they are well glazed over, pour off the sauce, season with 3 tablespoonsful of boiling bechamel sauce, number 3, and serve with croutons fried in butter. Number 156. Barbabietola alla Parmigiana, beetroot. Ingredients: beetroot, white sauce, parmesan, cheddar. Boil a beetroot till it is quite tender, peel it, cut into slices, put it in a fireproof dish, and cover it with a thick white sauce. Strew a little grated parmesan and cheddar over it. Put it in the oven for a few minutes and serve very hot in the dish. Number 157. Fave alla Saviota beans. Ingredients: beans, stock, a bunch of herbs, bechamel sauce. Boil 1 pound of broad beans in salt and water. Skin and cook them in a saucepan with a 1/4 pint of reduced stock and a hunch of herbs. Drain them, take out the herbs, and season with 2 glasses of bechamel sauce, number 3. Number 158. Vers alla Cappuccina, cabbage. Ingredients: cabbage or greens, anchovies, salt, butter, parsley, gravy, parmesan. Boil 2 cabbages in a good deal of water and cut them into quarters. Fry 2 anchovies slightly in butter and chopped parsley. Add the cabbages, and at the last 3 tablespoonsful of good gravy, 2 tablespoonsful of grated parmesan, salt and pepper, and when cooked, serve. Number 159. Cavalli fiori alla Lyonnaise, cauliflower. Ingredients: cauliflower, butter, onions, parsley, lemon, espagnole sauce. Blanch a cauliflower and boil it, but not too much. Cut up a small onion, fry it slightly in butter and chopped parsley, and when it is well colored, add the cauliflower and finish cooking it, then take it out, put it in a dish, pour a good espagnole sauce, number 1, over it, and add a squeeze of lemon juice. Number 160. Cavalli fiori fritti, cauliflower. Ingredients: cauliflower or broccoli, gravy, lemon, salt, eggs, butter. Break up a broccoli or cauliflower into little bunches, blanch them, and put them on the fire in a saucepan with good gravy for a few minutes. Then marinate them with lemon juice and salt. Let them get cold, egg them over, and fry in butter. Number 161. Cauliflower alla Parmigiana. Ingredients: cauliflower, butter, parmesan, cheddar, espagnole, stock. Boil a cauliflower in salted water, then sautés it in butter, but be careful not to cook it too much. Take it off the fire and strew grated parmesan and cheddar over it, then put in a fireproof dish and add a good spoonful of stock and 1 of espagnole, number 1, and put it in the oven for 10 minutes. Number 162. Cavalli fiori ripieni. Ingredients: cauliflower, butter, stock, forcemeat of fowl, tongue, truffles, mushrooms, parsley, espagnole, eggs. Break up a cauliflower into separate little bunches, blanch them, and put them in butter and a 1/4 pint of reduced stock. Make a forcemeat of fowl, add bits of tongue, truffles, mushrooms, and parsley, all cut up small and mixed with butter. With this mask the pieces of cauliflower, egg, and breadcrumb them, fry like croquettes, and serve with a good espagnole sauce, number 1. Number 163. Sedani alla Parmigiana, celery. Ingredients: celery, stock, ham, salt, pepper, cheddar, parmesan, butter, gravy. Cut all the green off a head of celery, trim the rest. Cut it into pieces about 4 inches long, blanch and braise them in good stock, ham, salt, and pepper. When cooked, drain and arrange them on a dish, sprinkle with grated Parmesan and cheddar, and add 1½ ounce of butter, then put them in the oven till they have taken a good color. Pour a little good gravy over them and serve. Number 164. Sedani frittitaliana, celery. Ingredients: same as number 163, eggs, breadcrumbs, tomatoes. Prepare a head of celery as above and cut it up into equal pieces. Blanch and braise as above, and when cold, egg and breadcrumb and sautés in butter. Serve with tomato sauce. Number 165. Cetrioli alla parmigiana, cucumber. Ingredients: cucumber, butter, cheese, gravy, salt, cayenne. Cut a cucumber into slices about 1/2 inch thick. Boil for 5 minutes in salted water, drain in a sieve, and fry slightly in melted butter. Then strew a little grated Parmesan over it, and add a good thick gravy. Put it into the oven for 10 minutes to brown, and serve as hot as possible. Number 166. Cetrioli alla Borghese, cucumber. Ingredients: cucumber, cream, salt, bechamel sauce, butter, Parmesan, cayenne pepper. Cook a cucumber as in number 165, braise it for 5 minutes. Add to it a good rich bechamel, number 3. Mixed with cream and grated Parmesan, spread this well over the cucumber, and put it into the oven for 10 minutes, keeping the rounds of cucumber separate, so as to arrange them in a circle on a very hot dish. Care should be taken not to cook the cucumber too long, or it will break in pieces and spoil the look of the dish. Number 167. Carrot al sughillo, carrots. Ingredients: carrots, stock, butter, sausage, pepper. Boil some young carrots in stock, slice them up, and put them in a stewpan with a sausage cut up. Cook for 1/4 hour on a slow fire, then stir up the fire. And when the carrots and sausage are a good color, add a good espagnole sauce, number 1, and serve. Number 168. Carrot e piselli alla panna, carrots and peas. Ingredients: young carrots, peas, cream, salt. Half cook equal quantities of peas and young carrots. The carrots should be cut in dice and will require a little longer cooking. Then put them together in a stewpan with 3 or 4 tablespoonsful of cream and cook till quite tender. Serve hot. Number 169. Vers alla Sardisine, cabbage. Ingredients: cabbage, butter, salt, leeks or shallots, sardines, cheese. Any vegetable may be cooked in the following simple manner. Boil them well, then slightly fry a little bit of leek or shallot and a sardine in butter. Drain the vegetables, put them in the butter, and cook gently so that they may absorb all the flavor, and at the last add a dust of grated cheese and a tiny pinch of spice. Number 170. Lattuga al sugo, lettuce. Ingredients: lettuce, Parmesan, bacon, stock, butter, croutons of bread, gravy. Take off the outside leaves of a lettuce, blanch and drain them well. Put on each leaf a mixture of grated Parmesan, salt, little bits of chopped bacon or ham, add a little good stock, cover over with buttered paper, and cook in a hot oven for 5 minutes. Then drain off the stock and roll up each leaf with the bacon, and put them on croutons of fried bread and pour some good thick gravy over them. Number 171. Lattuga farcite alla Genovese, lettuce. Ingredients: lettuce, forcemeat of fowl or veal, ham, espagnole sauce. Prepare a lettuce as above and spread on each leaf a spoonful of forcemeat of fowl or veal. Add a little cooked ham chopped up, roll up the leaves and cook as above. Drain them on a cloth, arrange them neatly on a dish, and pour some good espagnole sauce, number 1, over them. Number 172. Funghai capel in farcite, stuffed mushrooms. Ingredients: mushrooms, bread, stock, garlic, parsley, salt, Parmesan, butter, eggs, cream. Choose a dozen good fresh mushrooms, take off the stalks and put the tops into a saucepan with a little butter. See that they lie bottom upwards. Then cut up and mix together half the stalks of the mushrooms, a little breadcrumbs soaked in gravy, the merest scrap of garlic and a little chopped parsley. Put this into a separate saucepan and add to it 2 eggs, half a gill of cream, salt, and 2 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan. Mix well so as to get a smooth paste and fill in the cavities of the mushrooms with it. Then add a little more butter, strew some breadcrumbs over each mushroom, and cook in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes. Number 173. Verger misti, Macedon of vegetables. Ingredients: cauliflower, carrots, celery, spinach, butter, cream, pepper, Parmesan. Boil some carrots, cauliflower, spinach, and celery, all cut up in water. Then put them in layers in a buttered china mold, and between each layer add a little cream, pepper, and a little grated Parmesan and cheddar. Fill the mold in this manner and put it in the oven for half an hour so that the vegetables may cook without adhering to the mold. Turn out and serve. Number 174. Pâté à la crema, potatoes in cream. Ingredients: potatoes, butter, Parmesan, white stock, cream, pepper, salt. Boil 2 pounds of potatoes in salted water for a quarter of an hour, peel and cut them into slices about the size of a penny, then arrange them in layers in a very deep fireproof dish, with a lid, and on each layer pour a little melted butter, a little good white stock, and a dust of grated Parmesan. Reduce a pint and a half of cream to half its quantity, add a little pepper, and pour it over the potatoes. Put the dish in the oven for 20 minutes. Serve as hot as possible. Number 175. Cestolina di pâté à la giardiniera, potatoes. Ingredients: potatoes, white stock, salt, butter, peas, asparagus, sprouts, beans, and C. Choose some big sound potatoes, cut them in half and scoop out a little of the center so as to form a cavity. Blanch them in salted water and cook for a quarter of an hour in good white stock and a little butter. Then fill in the cavities with a macedoine of cooked vegetables and add a little cream to each. Number 176. Pâté al pomodoro, potatoes with tomato sauce. Ingredients: potatoes, butter, salt, tomatoes, lemon, stock. Peel 3 or 4 raw potatoes, cut them in slices about the size of a 5-shilling piece, then put them into a stewpan with 2 ounces of melted butter, and cook them gently until they are a good color, add salt, drain off the butter. Then glaze them by adding half a glass of good stock. Arrange them on a dish, pour some good tomato sauce over them, and add a little butter and a squeeze of lemon juice. Number 177. Spinaci alla Milanese, spinach. Ingredients: spinach, butter, veloute sauce, salt, pepper, flour, stock. Wash 3 pounds of spinach at least 6 times, boil it in a pint of water. Then mince it up very fine, pass it through a hair sieve, and put it in a saucepan with 1½ ounces of butter. Add a cupful of reduced veloute sauce, number 2, with cream, salt, and pepper. Add a dessert spoonful of flour and butter mixed, and boil until the spinach is firm enough to make into a shape. Garnish with hard-boiled eggs cut into quarters, and pour a good espagnole sauce. Number 1, round the dish. Number 178. Insalata di patate, potato salad. Ingredients: new potatoes, oil, white vinegar, onions, parsley, tarragon, chervil, celery, cream, salt, pepper, tarragon vinegar, watercress, cucumber, truffles. Steam as many new potatoes as you require until they are well cooked. Let them get cold. Cut them into slices and pour 3 teaspoonsful of salad oil and 1 of white vinegar over them. Then rub a salad bowl with onion, put in a layer of the potato slices, and sprinkle with chopped parsley, tarragon, chervil, and celery. Then another layer of potatoes until you have used all the potatoes. Cover them with whipped cream seasoned with salt, pepper, and a little tarragon vinegar, and garnish the top with watercress, a few thin slices of truffle cooked in white wine, and some slices of cooked cucumber. Number 179. Insalata alla Navarino, salad. Ingredients: peas, bean, onions, potatoes, tarragon, chives, parsley, tomatoes, anchovies, oil, vinegar, ham. Mix a tablespoonful of chopped parsley, a teaspoonful of chopped onion, a teaspoonful of tarragon, and chopped chives with half a gill of oil and half a gill of vinegar. Put this into a salad bowl with all sorts of cooked vegetables: peas, haricot beans, small onions, and potatoes cut up, and mix them well but gently so as not to break the vegetables. Then add 2 or 3 anchovies in oil, and on the top place 3 or 4 ripe tomatoes cut in slices. A little cooked smoked ham cut in dice added to this salad is a great improvement. Number 180. Insalata di pomodoro, tomato salad. Ingredients: tomatoes, mayonnaise, shallot, horseradish, gherkin, anchovies, fish, cucumber, lettuce, chervil, tarragon, eggs. Mix the following ingredients: 2 anchovies in oil boned and minced, a gill of mayonnaise sauce, a little grated horseradish, very little chopped shallot, a little cold salmon or trout, and a small gherkin chopped. With this mixture stuff some ripe tomatoes. Then make a good salad of endive or lettuce, a teaspoonful of chopped tarragon and chervil, season it with oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper. The proportions should be 3 of oil to 1 of vinegar. Put a layer of slices of cucumber in the salad, place the tomatoes on the top of these, and decorate them with hard-boiled eggs passed through a wire sieve. Number 181. Tartuffe alla dino truffles. Ingredients: truffles, fowl forcemeat, champagne. Allow 1 truffle for each person, scoop out the inside, chop it up fine and mix with a good forcemeat of fowl. With this, fill up the truffles, place a thin layer of truffle on the top of each, and cook them in champagne in a stewpan for about half an hour. Then take them out, make a rich sauce, to which add the champagne you have used and some of the chopped truffle, put the truffles in this sauce, and keep hot for 10 minutes. Serve in paper souffle cases. Macaroni, rice, polenta, and other Italian pastes, **. Italian pastes of the best quality can be obtained at Cosenza's, Wigmore Street, NW. For the following dishes, tagliatelle and spaghetti are recommended. Number 182. Macaroni with tomatoes. Ingredients: macaroni, tomatoes, butter, onion, basil, pepper, salt. Fry half an onion slightly in butter, and as soon as it is colored, add a puree of 2 big cooked tomatoes. Then boil 1/4 pound of macaroni separately, drain it and put it in a deep fireproof dish. Add the tomato puree and 3 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed, and cook gently for 1/4 hour before serving. This dish may be made with vermicelli, spaghetti, or any other Italian paste. Number 183. Macaroni alla casalinga. Ingredients: macaroni, butter, stock, cheese, water, salt, nutmeg. Cut up a 1/4 pound of macaroni in small pieces and put it in boiling salted water. When sufficiently cooked, drain and put it into a saucepan with 2 ounces of butter, add good gravy or stock, 3 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed, and a tiny pinch of nutmeg. Stir over a brisk fire and serve very hot. Number 184. Macaroni al secchillo. Ingredients: macaroni, stock, tomatoes, sausage, cheese. Half cook 4 ounces of macaroni, drain it and put it in layers in a fireproof dish, and gradually add good beef gravy, 4 tablespoonsful of tomato puree, and thin slices of sausage. Sprinkle with grated Parmesan and cheddar and cook for about 20 minutes. Before serving, pass the salamander over the top to brown the macaroni. Number 185. Macaroni alla Livornese. Ingredients: macaroni, mushrooms, tomatoes, Parmesan, butter, pepper, salt, milk. Boil about 4 ounces of macaroni and stew 4 or 5 mushrooms in milk with pepper and salt. Put a layer of the macaroni in a buttered fireproof dish, then a layer of tomato puree, then a layer of the mushrooms and another layer of macaroni. Dust it all over with grated Parmesan and cheddar, put it in the oven for half an hour, and serve very hot. Number 186. Tagliatelle and lobster. Ingredients: tagliatelle, lobster, cheese, butter. Boil half a pound of tagliatelle and cut up a 1/4 pound of lobster. Butter a fireproof dish and strew it well with grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed, then put in the tagliatelle and lobster in layers, and between each layer add a little butter. Strew grated cheese over the top, put it in the oven for 20 minutes, and brown the top with a salamander. Number 187. Polenta. Polenta is made of ground Indian corn and may be used either as a separate dish or as a garnish for roast meat, pigeons, fowl, and see it is made like porridge. Gradually drop the meal with one hand into boiling stock or water and stir continually with a wooden spoon with the other hand. In about 1/4 hour it will be quite thick and smooth, then add a little butter and grated Parmesan and 1 egg beaten up. Let it get cold, then put it in layers in a baking dish, add a little butter to each layer, sprinkle with plenty of Parmesan, and bake it for about an hour in a slow oven. Serve hot. Number 188. Polenta pasticciata. Ingredients: polenta, butter, cheese, mushrooms, tomatoes. Prepare a good polenta as above, put it in layers in a fireproof dish, and add by degrees 1½ ounces of melted butter, 2 cooked mushrooms cut up, and 2 tablespoonsful of grated cheese. If you like, you may add a good-sized tomato mashed up. Put the dish in the oven, and before serving, brown it over with salamander. Number 189. Batafali. Ingredients: polenta, onion, butter, salt, stock, Parmesan. Make a somewhat firm polenta, number 187, with half a pound of ground maize and 1.5 pints of salted water. Add a small onion cut up and fried in butter, and stir the polenta until it is sufficiently cooked. Then take it off the fire and arrange it by spoonsful in a large fireproof dish, and give each spoonful the shape and size of an egg. Place them one against the other, and when the first layer is done, pour over it some very good gravy or stock and plenty of grated Parmesan. Arrange it thus layer by layer. Put it into the oven for 20 minutes and serve very hot. Number 190. Risotto Italiana. Ingredients: rice and onion, butter, stock, tomatoes, cheese. Fry a small onion slightly in butter, then add half a pint of very good stock. Boil 4 ounces of rice, but do not let it get pulpy. Add it to the above with 3 medium-sized tomatoes in a puree. Mix it all up well, add more stock, and 2 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed, and serve hot. Number 191. Risotto alla Genovese. Ingredients: rice, beef or veal, onions, parsley, butter, stock, Parmesan, sweetbread or sheep's brains. Cut up a small onion and fry it slightly in butter with some chopped parsley. Add to this a little veal, also chopped up, and a little suet. Cook for 10 minutes and then add 2 ounces of rice to it. Mix all with a wooden spoon, and after a few minutes begin to add boiling stock gradually. Stir with the spoon so that the rice whilst cooking may absorb the stock. When it is half cooked, add a few spoonsful of good gravy and a sweetbread or sheep's brains, previously scalded and cut up in pieces. And, if you like, a little powdered saffron dissolved in a spoonful of stock and 3 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed. Stir well until the rice is quite cooked, but take care not to get it into a pulp. Number 192. Risotto alla Spagnuola. Ingredients: rice, pork, ham, onions, tomatoes, butter, stock, vegetables, Parmesan. Put a small bit of onion and an ounce of butter into a saucepan. Add half a pound of tomatoes cut up and fry for a few minutes. Then, put in some bits of loin of pork cut into dice and some bits of lean ham. After a time, add 4 ounces of rice and good stock, and as soon as it begins to boil, put on the cover and put the saucepan on a moderate fire. When the rice is half cooked, add any sort of vegetable, by preference peas, asparagus cut up, beans, and cucumber cut up. Cook for another quarter of an hour, and serve with grated Parmesan and cheddar mixed and good gravy. Number 193. Risotto alla Cappuccina. Ingredients: risotto number 190, eggs, truffles, smoked tongue, butter. Make a good risotto, and when cooked, put it into a fireproof dish. When cold, cut into shapes with a dariole mold and fry for a few minutes in butter, then turn the darioles out, scoop out a little of each and fill it with eggs beaten up. Cover each with a slice of truffle and garnish with a little chopped tongue. Put them in the oven for 10 minutes. Number 194. Risotto alla Perugina. Ingredients: risotto number 190, game, sauce, butter. Make a good risotto, and when cooked, pour it into a fireproof dish, let it get cold, and then cut it out with a dariole mold, or else form it into little balls about the size of a pigeon's egg. Fry these in butter and serve with a rich game sauce poured over them. Number 195. Ravioli. Ingredients: flour, eggs, butter, salt, forcemeat, Parmesan, gravy or stock. Make a paste with a 1/4 pound of flour, the yolk of 2 eggs, a little salt and 2 ounces of butter. Knead this into a firm, smooth paste and wrap it up in a damp cloth for half an hour, then roll it out as thin as possible, moisten it with a paste brush dipped in water, and cut it into circular pieces about 3 inches in diameter. On each piece, put about a teaspoonful of forcemeat of fowl, game, or fish mixed with a little grated Parmesan and the yolks of 1 or 2 eggs. Fold the paste over the forcemeat and pinch the edges together so as to give them the shape of little puffs. Let them dry in the larder, then blanch by boiling them in stock for 1/4 of an hour and drain them in a napkin. Butter a fireproof dish, put in a layer of the ravioli, powder them over with grated Parmesan, then another layer of ravioli and more Parmesan. Then add enough very good gravy to cover them, put the dish in the oven for about 25 minutes, and serve in the dish. Number 196. Ravioli alla Fiorentina. Ingredients: beetroot, eggs, Parmesan, milk or cream, nutmeg, spices, salt, flour, gravy. Wash a beetroot and boil it, and when it is sufficiently cooked, throw it into cold water for a few minutes, then drain it, chop it up and add to it 4 eggs, 1 ounce of grated Parmesan, 1 ounce of grated cheddar, 2½ ounces of boiled cream or milk, a small pinch of nutmeg, and a little salt. Mix all well together into a smooth, firm paste. Then roll into balls about the size of a walnut, flour them over well, let them dry for half an hour. Then drop them very carefully one by one into boiling stock, and when they float on the top, take them out with a perforated ladle, put them in a deep dish, dust them over with Parmesan, and pour good meat or game gravy over them. Number 197, gnocchi alla romana. Ingredients: semolina, butter, Parmesan, eggs, nutmeg, milk, cream. Boil half a pint of milk in a saucepan, then add 2 ounces of butter, 4 ounces of semolina, 2 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan, the yolks of 3 eggs, and a tiny pinch of nutmeg. Mix all well together, then let it cool, and spread out the paste so that it is about the thickness of a finger. Put a little butter and grated Parmesan and 2 tablespoonsful of cream in a fireproof dish. Cut out the semolina paste with a small dariole mold and put it in the dish. Dust a little more Parmesan over it, put it in the oven for 5 minutes, and serve in the dish. Number 198, gnocchi alla lombarda. Ingredients: potatoes, flour, salt, Parmesan and Gruyere cheese, butter, milk, eggs. Boil 2 or 3 big potatoes and pass them through a hair sieve. Mix in 2 tablespoonsful of flour, an egg beaten up, and enough milk to form a rather firm paste. Stir until it is quite smooth. Roll it into the shape of a German sausage, cut it into rounds about 3/4 of an inch thick, and put it into the larder to dry for about half an hour. Then drop the gnocchi one by one into boiling salted water and boil for 10 minutes. Take them out with a slice and put them in a well-buttered fireproof dish. Add butter between each layer and strew plenty of grated Parmesan and cheddar over them. Put them in the oven for 10 minutes, brown the top with a salamander, and serve very hot. Number 199, frittata di riso, savory rice pancake. Ingredients: rice, milk, salt, butter, cinnamon, eggs, Parmesan. Boil 1/4 pound of rice in milk until it is quite soft and pulpy. Drain off the milk and add to the rice an ounce of butter, 2 tablespoonsful of grated Parmesan, and a pinch of cinnamon, and when it has got rather cold, the yolks of 4 eggs beaten up. Mix all well together, and with this make a pancake with butter in a frying pan. Omelets and other egg dishes. Number 200, uova al tartufi, eggs with truffles. Ingredients: eggs, butter, cream, truffles, veloute sauce, croutons. Beat up 6 eggs, pass them through a sieve, and put them into a saucepan with 2 ounces of butter and 2 tablespoonsful of cream. Put the saucepan in a bain-marie and stir so that the eggs may not adhere. Saute some slices of truffle in butter, cover them with veloute sauce, number 2, and a glass of marsala, and add them to the eggs. Serve very hot with fried and glazed croutons. Instead of truffles, you can use asparagus tips, peas, or cooked ham. Number 201, uova al pomodoro, eggs and tomatoes. Ingredients: eggs, salt, tomatoes, onion, parsley, butter, pepper. Cut up 3 or 4 tomatoes and put them into a stewpan with a piece of butter the size of a walnut and a clove of garlic with a cut in it. Put the lid on the stewpan and cook till quite soft. Then take out the garlic, strain the tomatoes through a fine strainer into a bain-marie, beat up 2 eggs and add them to the tomatoes and stir till quite thick. Then put in 2 tablespoonsful of grated cheese and serve on toast. Number 202, uova ripiene, canapés of egg. Ingredients: eggs, butter, salt, pepper, nutmeg, cheese, parsley, mushrooms, bechamel, and espagnole sauce, stock. Boil as many eggs as you want hard and cut them in half lengthwise. Take out the yolks and mix them with some fresh butter, salt, pepper, very little nutmeg, grated cheese, a little chopped parsley, and cooked mushrooms also chopped. Then mix 2 tablespoonsful of good bechamel sauce, number 3, with the raw yolk of 1 or 2 eggs, and add it to the rest. Put all in a saucepan with an ounce of butter and good stock. Then fill up the white halves with the mixture, giving them a good shape. Heat them in a bain-marie and serve with a very good clear espagnole sauce, number 1. Number 203, uova alla fiorentina, eggs. Ingredients: eggs, butter, Parmesan, cream, flour, salt, pepper, curds. Boil as many eggs as you require hard, then cut them in half and take out the yolks and pound them in a mortar with equal quantities of butter and curds, a tablespoonful of grated Parmesan, salt, and pepper. Put this in a saucepan and add the yolks of 8 eggs and the white of 1. This is for 12 people. Mix all well together and reduce a little. With this mixture, fill the hard whites of the eggs and spread the rest of the sauce on the bottom of the dish, and on this place the whites. Then in another saucepan mix half a gill of cream and an ounce of butter, a dessert spoonful of flour, salt, and pepper. Let this boil for a minute, and then glaze over the eggs in the dish with it, and on the top of each egg put a little bit of butter, and over all a powdering of grated cheese. Put this in the oven, pass the salamander over the top, and when the cheese is colored, serve at once. Number 204. Uova and Philly Egg Canapés. Ingredients: eggs, butter, mushrooms, onions, flour, white wine, fish or meat stock, salt, pepper, croutons of bread. Put into a saucepan 2 ounces of butter, 3 large fresh mushrooms cut into slices, and an onion cut up. Fry them slightly, and when the onion begins to color, add a spoonful of flour, a quarter of a glass of chablis, salt and pepper, and occasionally add a spoonful of either fish or meat stock. Let this simmer for half an hour so as to reduce it to a thick sauce. Then boil as many eggs as you want hard, take out the yolks but keep them whole. Cut up the whites into slices and add them to the above sauce, pour the sauce into a dish, and on the top of it place the whole yolks of egg, each on a crouton of bread. Number 205. Frittata di fungi Mushroom Omelette. Ingredients: mushrooms, butter, eggs, breadcrumbs, parmesan, marjoram, garlic. Clean 4 or 5 mushrooms, cut them up, and put them into a frying pan with 1½ ounces of butter, a clove of garlic with 2 cuts in it, and a little salt. Fry them lightly till the mushrooms are nearly cooked, and then take out the garlic. In the meantime, beat up separately the yolks and the whites of 2 or 3 eggs, add a little crumb of bread soaked in water, a tablespoonful of grated parmesan, and 2 leaves of marjoram. Go on beating all up until the crumb of bread has become entirely absorbed by the eggs. Then pour this mixture into the frying pan with the mushrooms. Mix all well together and make an omelet in the usual way. Number 206. Frittata con pomodoro, tomato omelet. Ingredients: eggs, tomatoes, butter, marjoram, parsley, spice. Peel 2 tomatoes and take out the seeds, then mix them with an ounce of butter, chopped marjoram, parsley, and a tiny pinch of spice. Add 3 eggs, beaten up the yolks and whites separately, and make an omelet. Number 207. Frittata con asparagi, asparagus omelet. Ingredients: eggs, asparagus, butter, ham, herbs, cheese. Blanch a dozen heads of asparagus and cook them slightly, then cut them up and mix with 2 ounces of butter, bits of cut-up ham, herbs, and a tablespoonful of grated parmesan. Add them to 3 beaten-up eggs and make an omelet. Number 208. Frittata con herb omelet with herbs. Ingredients: eggs, onions, sorrel, mint, parsley, asparagus, marjoram, salt, pepper, butter. Chop a little sorrel, a small bit of onion, mint, parsley, marjoram, and fry in 2 ounces of butter. Add some cut-up asparagus, salt, and pepper. Then add 3 eggs beaten up and a little grated cheese and make your omelet. Number 209. Frittata montata omelet souffle. Ingredients: eggs, parmesan, pepper, parsley. Beat up the whites of 3 eggs to a froth and the yolks separately with a tablespoonful of grated parmesan, chopped parsley, and a little pepper. Then mix them and make a light omelet. Number 210. Frittata di prosciutto ham omelet. Ingredients: eggs, ham, parmesan, mint, pepper, clotted cream. Beat up 3 eggs and add to them 2 tablespoonsful of clotted cream, 1 tablespoonful of chopped ham, 1 of grated parmesan, chopped mint, and a little pepper, and make the omelet in the usual way. Sweets and cakes. Number 211. Budino of semolina. Ingredients: semolina, milk, eggs, castor sugar, lemon, sultanas, rum butter, cream, or zabajone. Number 222. Boil 1½ pints of milk with 4 ounces of castor sugar, and gradually add 5 ounces of semolina. Boil for a quarter of an hour more and stir continually with a wooden spoon. Then take the saucepan off the fire. And when it is cooled a little, add the yolks of 6 and the whites of 2 eggs well beaten up, a little grated lemon peel, 3/4 of an ounce of sultanas, and 2 small glasses of rum. Mix well so as to get it very smooth, pour it into a buttered mold and serve either hot or cold. If cold, put whipped cream flavored with stick vanilla around the dish. If hot, a zabajone. Number 222. Number 212. Crema rapresa coffee cream. Ingredients: coffee, cream, eggs, sugar, butter. Bruise 5 ounces of freshly roasted mocha coffee and add it to 3/4 of a pint of boiling cream. Cover the saucepan, let it simmer for 20 minutes, then pass through a bit of fine muslin. In the meantime, mix the yolks of 10 eggs and 2 whole eggs with 8 ounces of castor sugar and a glass of cream. Add the coffee cream to this and pass the whole through a fine sieve into a buttered mold. Steam in a bain-marie for rather more than an hour, but do not let the water boil. Then put the cream on ice for about an hour, and before serving turn it out on a dish and pour some cream flavored with stick vanilla round it. Number 213. Crema montata alle fragole, strawberry cream. Ingredients: cream, castor sugar, maraschino, strawberries or strawberry jam. Put a pint of cream on ice, and after 2 hours whip it up. Pass 3 tablespoonfuls of strawberry jam through a sieve and add 2 tablespoonfuls of maraschino. Mix this with the cream and build it up into a pyramid garnish with meringue biscuits and serve quickly. You may use fresh strawberries when in season, but then add castor sugar to taste. Number 214. Croccante di mandorle cream nougat. Ingredients: almonds, sugar, lemon juice, butter, castor sugar, pistachios, preserved fruits. Blanch half a pound of almonds, cut them into shreds and dry them in a slow oven until they are a light brown color. Then put a 1/4 pound of lump sugar into a saucepan and caramel it lightly. Stir well with a wooden spoon. When the sugar is dissolved, throw the hot almonds into it and also a little lemon juice. Take the saucepan off the fire and mix the almonds with the sugar. Pour it into a buttered mold and press it against the sides of the mold with a lemon, but remember that the casing of sugar must be very thin. You may, if you like, spread out the mixture on a flat dish and line the mold with your hands, but the sugar must be kept hot. Then take it out of the mold and decorate it with castor sugar, pistachio nuts, and preserved fruits. Fill this case with whipped cream and preserved fruits or fresh strawberries. Number 215. Crema tartare alla caramella, caramel cream. Ingredients: cream, eggs, caramel sugar, vanilla or lemon flavoring. Boil a pint of cream and give it any flavor you like. When cold, add the yolks of 8 eggs and 2 tablespoonfuls of castor sugar, mix well and pass it through a sieve, then burn some sugar to a caramel, line a smooth mold with it and pour the cream into it. Boil in a bain-marie for an hour and serve hot or cold. Number 216. Cremona cake. Ingredients: ground rice, ground maize, sugar, 1 orange, eggs, salt, cream, maraschino, almonds, preserved cherries. Weigh 3 eggs and take equal quantities of castor sugar, butter, ground rice, and maize, the last 2 together. Make a light paste with them, but only use 1 whole egg and the yolks of the 2 others. Add the scraped peel of an orange and a pinch of salt. Roll this paste out to the thickness of a 5-shilling piece. Color it with the yolk of an egg and bake it in a cake tin in a hot oven until it is a good color. Then take it out and cut it into 4 equal circular pieces. Have ready some well-whipped cream and flavor it with maraschino. Put a thick layer of this on one of the rounds of pastry, then cover it with the next round, on which also put a layer of cream, and so on until you come to the last round, which forms the top of the cake. Then split some almonds and color them in the oven. Cover the top of the cake with icing sugar flavored with orange, and decorate the top with the almonds and preserved cherries. Number 217. Cake alla Tolentino. Ingredients: sponge cake, jam, brandy or maraschino, cream, pineapple. Make a medium-sized sponge cake. When cold, cut off the top and scoop out all the middle and leave only the brown case. Cover the outside with a good coating of jam or red currant jelly, and decorate it with some of the white of the cake cut into fancy shapes. Soak the rest of the crumb in brandy or maraschino and mix it with 1/4 of a pint of whipped cream and bits of pineapple cut into small dice. Fill the cake with this. Pile it up high in the center and decorate the top with the brown top cut into fancy shapes. Number 218. Riso all'imperatrice. Ingredients: rice, sugar, milk, ice, preserved fruits, blancmange, maraschino, cream. Boil 2 dessertspoonsful of rice and 1 of sugar in milk. When sufficiently boiled, drain the rice and let it get cold. In the meantime, place a mold on ice and decorate it with slices of preserved fruit, and fix them to the mold with just enough nearly cold, dissolved isinglass to keep them in place. Also put half a pint of blancmange on the ice, and stir it till it is the right consistency. Gradually add the boiled rice, half a glass of maraschino, some bits of pineapple cut in dice, and last of all half a pint of whipped cream. Fill the mold with this, and when it is sufficiently cold, turn it out and serve with a garnish of glace fruits or a few brandy cherries. Number 219. Amaretti Leggery Almond Cakes. Ingredients: almonds sweet and bitter, eggs, castor sugar. Blanch equal quantities of sweet and bitter almonds and dry them a little in the oven, then pound them in a mortar, and add nearly double their quantity of castor sugar. Mix with the white of an egg well beaten up into a snow and shape into little balls about the size of a pigeon's egg. Put them on a piece of stout white paper and bake them in a very slow oven. They should be very light and delicate in flavor. Number 220. Cakes à la Livornese. Ingredients: almonds, eggs, sugar, salt, potato flour, butter. Pound 2 ounces of almonds and mix them with the yolks of 2 eggs and a spoonful of castor sugar flavored with orange juice. Then mix 2 ounces of sugar with an egg, and to this add the almonds, a pinch of salt, and gradually strew in 1½ ounces of potato flour. When it is all well mixed, add 1 ounce of melted butter, shape the cakes and bake them in a slow oven. Number 221. Genoese Pastry. Ingredients: eggs, sugar, butter, flour, almonds, orange or lemon brandy. Weigh 4 eggs and take equal weights of castor sugar, butter, and flour. Pound 3 ounces of almonds and mix them with an egg, melt the butter, and mix all the ingredients with a wooden spoon in a pudding basin for 10 minutes, then add a little scraped orange or lemon peel and a dessert spoonful of brandy. Spread out the paste in thin layers on a copper baking sheet, cover them with buttered paper, and bake in a moderately hot oven. These cakes must be cut into shapes when they are hot, as otherwise they will break. Number 222. Zabajone. Ingredients: eggs, sugar, marsala, maraschino, or other light-colored liqueur, sponge fingers. Zabajone is a kind of syllabub. It is made with marsala and maraschino or marsala and yellow chartreuse. Reckon the quantities as follows: for each person the yolks of 3 eggs, 1 teaspoonful of castor sugar to each egg, and a wineglass of wine and liqueur mixed. Whip up the yolks of the eggs with the sugar, then gradually add the wine. Put this in a bain-marie and stir until it has thickened to the consistency of a custard. Take care, however, that it does not boil. Serve hot in custard glasses and hand sponge fingers with it. Number 223. Iced Zabajone. Ingredients: eggs, castor sugar, marsala, cinnamon, lemon, stick vanilla, rum, maraschino, butter, ice. Mix the yolks of 10 eggs, 2 dessertspoonsful of castor sugar, and 3 wineglasses of marsala. Add half a stick of vanilla, a small bit of whole cinnamon, and the peel of half a lemon cut into slices. Whip this up lightly over a slow fire until it is nearly boiling and slightly frothy. Then remove it, take out the cinnamon, vanilla, and lemon pool, and whip up the rest for a minute or 2 away from the fire. Add a tablespoonful of maraschino and 1 of rum, and, if you like, a small quantity of dissolved isinglass. Stir up the whole, pour it into a silver souffle dish, and put it on ice. Serve with sponge cakes or iced wafers. Number 224. Panforte di Siena, Sienese hardbake. Ingredients: honey, almonds, filberts, candied lemon peel, pepper, cinnamon, chocolate, corn flour, large wafers. Boil half a pound of honey in a copper vessel, and then add to it a few blanched almonds and filberts cut in halves or quarters and slightly browned, a little candied lemon peel, a dust of pepper and powdered cinnamon, and a 1/4 pound of grated chocolate. Mix all well together, and gradually add a tablespoonful of corn flour and 2 of ground almonds to thicken it. Then take the vessel off the fire, spread the mixture on large wafers, and make each cake about an inch thick. Garnish them on the top with almonds cut in half, and dust over a little powdered sugar and cinnamon, then put them in a very slow oven for an hour. New Century Sauce. The New Century Sauce may be bought at Messrs. Lazenby's, Wigmore Street, W. Number 225. Fish Sauce. Add 1 dessertspoonful of the sauce to a 1/4 pint of melted butter sauce. Number 226. Sauce Piquante for meat, fowl, game, rabbit, and sea. 1 dessertspoonful to a 1/4 pint of ordinary brown or white stock. It may be thickened by a roux made by frying 2 ounces of butter with 2 ounces of flour. Number 227. Sauce for venison, hare, and sea. 2 dessertspoonsful of New Century sauce to half a pint of game gravy or sauce, and a small teaspoonful of red currant jelly. Number 228, tomato sauce piquante. Fry 3 medium-sized tomatoes in 1½ ounce of butter. Pass this through a sieve, then boil it up in a bain-marie till it thickens, and add 1 dessertspoonful of New Century sauce. Number 229, sauce for roast pork, ham, and C. Add to any ordinary white or brown sauce 1 dessertspoonful of New Century sauce, and 2 of port or burgundy if the sauce is brown, 2 of Chablis if white. Number 230, for masking cutlets and C. Making a roux by frying 2 ounces of butter with 2 ounces of flour and add 2 tablespoonsful of boiling stock. Stir in 1 dessertspoonful of New Century sauce. Let it get cold, and it will then be quite firm and ready for masking cutlets and C. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook of the Cook's Decameron, A Study in Taste by Mrs. W.G. Waters.